This conference will now be recorded.
So if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah. Okay, I will call roll. In attendance today, we have Supervisor Geppert, Supervisor Banks, Supervisor Tinkle. Online, we have Supervisor Guy, and is Flavia online?
I know, I heard from her this morning. She said she was not feeling well. She was planning to join online, but I do not see her at this time unless she's under a guest name. I did just text her.
And you reminded 2 o'clock.
I did, yeah. That's why I just texted her a reminder of that
In
too.
anticipation of Flavia joining remotely as well, I just need a motion for special circumstances for Supervisor Guy, Supervisor.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So we are starting early today. We have a heavier back-end agenda. But we will go ahead and get started with public comments. Any in the room?
I have nothing. No one, there's no chats, and I'm not aware of any emails or faxes.
Any texts or anything else, Laura?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Question on that. Did everybody, I figured the room would be full on this. Did everybody get this thing from Iberia Bank?
Not everybody did. Only
I
people, there was, I can give you a very brief, and Tony is aware of it as
I
well.
figured it'd be a bunch of people saying, what the hell is this?
No, there was, they had an incident with the lockbox, so it only affects anybody who actually mails a check into the Iberia lockbox. It doesn't affect all of our customers. There was a incident where some data was compromised, and that's what that letter is about. So I don't remember what the final count was. I think it was around 800 people, I believe.
So if you, like I do it all by check. So if I sent the check here to the CDD, why would I have gotten this? Because I've never, to my knowledge.
If you put the check in the mail, it goes to the Iberia lockbox. If you bring
I
it,
think Iberia then sends it to a third-party processor, is that
that's
correct?
the processor gets the lockbox, the stuff in the lockbox.
And that's the
yes.
processor is the one that where
The processor
data
had
breach.
the problem, yes.
So unless I see something strange going on, it's no harm, no foul. at this point.
Correct. Just more of an awareness to let you know. And it actually happened back in
Last fall.
October.
Yeah, it's like October or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same issue.
Same issue as the time before. We are switching over. I'm sure you know Iberia merged with, or First Horizon bought Iberia. They merged. They're going to be First Horizon. We are switching over to the First Horizon lockbox towards the end of May. So we have a couple of months left with Iberia.
Has anybody noticed any or filed any complaints or issues?
We haven't heard anything.
Nobody's had anything.
Not a peep.
Okay.
Thank you.
District Attorney.
Yes, I have we'll get to that when we get to item 4E and some other items, but one request I'd like to make, and this is on the Fort Line lawsuit, ask again for another closed door session at your April 7th board meeting. And this is the lawsuit, Gateway Services CDD versus Fort Line Inc. In Circuit Court in Lee County, Florida. We're advising the board at this meeting that pursuant to section 286.011 subsection 8 Florida statutes, we desire advice at a private closed door attorney-client session concerning that litigation. And that session will be confined to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. I estimate the length of the session to be approximately 1 hour at the maximum. The attorney-client session will be recorded by a certified court reporter, and the court reporter's notes will be fully transcribed and filed with the clerk of the district, made part of the public record upon conclusion. Otherwise, it's sealed until that time. We're requesting that the board set the private closed door attorney-client session for April 7th, 2022. And last time we did it at 5:30 p.m. So I don't know if that's something the board would want to do or have it at 5 o'clock. And the closed door session will be held between the Board of Supervisors, myself, maybe either Lenore Brayfield or Zach Lombardo as district counsel, Laura Leroy as the interim district manager and as the chief executive officer of the district, and the court reporter. So if the board, again, I think last time we did it towards the end of the meeting. And then at the end of that closed door session, we come out into open session, we may be asking for direction or we may not, depending upon some other items that may occur in the next week or so. But we're requesting it for April 7th, 2022 at 5:30 PM, or if we want to do it at 5 o'clock.
Do we have anything on the agenda that's, I just assumed do it 5 o'clock.
I agree with that.
You're looking at it for the April 7th?
April 7th.
Yeah, I think we did it at 5:30 because we had a really full agenda the last
That's what I'm
time.
wondering. If we don't
Yeah.
have a full agenda, I'd just say move it to 5.
What I'm requesting is a request, and this is an action item, so if any board wants to take any comment from the public, but the only request is for the board to approve. I'd like to have a motion to establish and set a private closed door attorney-client session involving the pending litigation against Ford Line for April 7th, 2022 at 5 PM, or as soon thereafter as possible.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any-
All right, thank you very much. I'll then prepare the notice and arrange for the court reporter. The next, like I said, the next item is the item with regards to the SRF. I'll take that item up when we come to that at 4E. Been working with Laura and Rick Berlansky. I think I mentioned last board meeting. The last couple of weeks have been a blur with everything else going on. With regards to Pelican Preserve, the emergency limited access road, we're having a team call, I think Friday, correct? Tomorrow afternoon. Like I said, Laura and I had a good call with Rick. We had some good, on a go forward basis. So we'll have that on this Friday. On Palazzo, as Mr. Schofield asked me, I'm still only about 300 pages away from finishing all the covenants and documents, the title commitment, so we can wrap that up. And I've not heard anything back from Charles Mann. I'll ask him again with regards to the FPL easement property. And Charles is probably swamped also, quite frankly, because usually he's really, really responsive on stuff. With regards to the 558 notice that we sent to Lennar over the two lakes, I think 56 and 57 in Pelican Reserve, where there were supposed to be the flared end sections and the pipe was not long enough. I've had some initial conversations with an attorney that has been retained for that. I'll just follow up with that person. I said the board is, my advice and my adamant to the board is that that needs to be built in accordance with the plans and specs. And, so I'll let you know at the next board meeting what those conversations are, how they're proceeding.
Yeah, it's not multiple choice.
I think they're the wrong pond numbers, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I know there is, well, it's from one pond, two pipes. I'm sorry. You might be right. One pond, two pipes. One pipe's too short with the flared end section. The other one does not have a flared end section. And other than that, working with staff on a number of items. You'll note in Elle's report that she's waiting for district council to provide comments on the patient for video bid specs. Tardy me got those to Elle this afternoon, just about an hour and a half ago. So, nothing else to report, absent some board questions on various matters.
Any questions for council?
Yeah, I had one. I'm trying to remember what it was. No, we'll pass one.
Okay. District Engineer, Stephen, are you on?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephen Agapi with Tetra Tech. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Long time no talk.
Oh.
I'm sorry?
Were you under the weather the last meeting?
I was in the hospital with my mom. She had a stroke, but she's okay now. She's out of the hospital. She's good. The meeting before I was sick, I had a pretty nasty flu, but it's been a rough month and a half, but I'm okay now. So let's get to work. On the Gateway Lakes, me and Laura, we just got an email not too long ago from Pankaj at SRF. They have approved Met Tower's bids. They have approved us to go ahead and issue a contract at will. The only thing they're holding up on is the signatures for the loan agreement, which I think Tony and Laura are working on, maybe some final language there. We are still waiting for an approved LDO from Lee County. We had an RAI issued in February. We responded in the first week of March. The questions were the same that we got on the last round of lakes, and we pretty much just answered them the same way as we did before. So I'm not anticipating another RAI, and we should get that permit within 15 days from now. So hopefully we'll be able to issue NTPs by the beginning of April. We reviewed a preliminary schedule with Met Tower earlier today. Myself, Scott, and Laura, and Chris and Chrissy Met Tower. They have a pretty aggressive schedule planned for the lakes. They're planning to be done if they can start on April 1st. They're planning to be out of there by the end of May. I think it's a little aggressive. I'm sure there's things that are going to come up. But even, if they get slowed down, 4 or 6 weeks, it'll still be done on time. So that's it for the lakes. In Arborwood, a new issue has come up. There was a storm pipe that was installed outside of the easement. It's between two homes. The homes have been built already. I guess the pipe was discovered during closing. The property owners of the bank that was closing on the property, they had a survey done and they discovered that the inlet box was outside of the district's easement. So we talked about this yesterday, Elle, myself, and Laura, and we all agreed, or were in agreement at the time, that the pipe should be removed and replaced and installed back into the easement. So we're kind of working with them on that. They're in agreement that if we want them to move it, they certainly will. They did offer to, instead of replacing and removing the pipe, to extend the easement to cover that pipe. The problem with that is the storm pipe is about 6 feet deep and it's only 5.5 feet away from the house. So it would be unfortunate, in the future, if Gateway had to go and replace that pipe, they have to dig a hole 6 feet deep next to someone's home. It'd be a rare event that it would have to get replaced, but it would be better if Gateway didn't have to take that risk or responsibility. So we're working with the contractor right now to address that situation. In Casella, we have that Weir access drive that was regraded recently by Lennar. They have completed the grading. We're still waiting on some compaction results, and they have to sod it finally. But that issue is getting wrapped up. That's pretty much it for all the interim updates that I have. Does anyone have any questions for me?
You've been out and looked at the Casella regrade?
Yes.
Is that what I just heard? It's okay, as far as you were concerned?
Yep. So staff looked at it, and our inspector looked at it, and it looks like they hit the mark. We had a couple questions about the actual. It looked like so. We requested that they compact that and provide densities. So last I heard, they were waiting to accomplish that.
Okay, I'll go and look at also.
Stephen, where are you at on putting together any type of specifications or plan sheets for all these point repairs that we have to do around these lakes? And how is that going to tie in with Met Tower's busy schedule? Am I assuming that they just aren't going to bid that work because they're snowed on the major deals, or how's that going to be handled?
I'm not sure. I'm sure Met Tower would like to take the work if it, is outside of these the lake reconstructions. But I think Elle's been handling all the point repairs. I haven't been pulled into that yet. I'd be more than happy to help out.
Who's preparing the plans?
But I think
you're not preparing the plans and specs.
no, sir. I haven't been pulled into that yet. Maybe Elle had talked to someone while I was out, but I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, who's doing this? Because I want to get that work done before bad season gets here.
We have issued an approved proposal to Met Tower to do the washouts in Lake 125, 133, and 134. I've never seen specs or engineered plans to repair a washout.
These are huge.
Some are, and however, the other side of that is 125 is also in the pond restoration phase for phase 3, at the top of the list in phase 3. So what we want to do is safe the area up until the bank restoration, the complete bank restoration project is done.
Say that again now.
We want to make the area safe. In other words, repair these washouts up to the original grade at where they are now. We're not repairing the pond bank. We're just filling in and compacting, putting cloth down. They trench the cloth in at the top, and then they resod it.
So it's an interim solution.
It is an interim solution until the pond bank restoration there is done.
Okay, and what is the schedule on that pond bank? Because the people are going to be asking the question.
I can check with Met Tower and I can provide you a start date.
But it's not on this current list of 8 projects. Is it?
Correct.
125 is not. 133 and 134 are not on the list at all. They're right here in Timber Ridge. I'm sorry, Timber Woods.
Well, so we're not
If you
gonna
would
be-
like, I can reach out to Tetra Tech and ask them to provide
I
us.
just, I was looking at it as being a formal deal because I've seen how we kick the can down on the road. 125 may not be done for 5 years. We need to get this done now. So, but if we're going to do it on that basis, I just want to make sure that the people understand is this isn't the final solution.
This is not.
This is
Correct.
just a interim solution to return your yard back. Yeah,
It's a
Band-Aid.
point repair. Point repair. At this point, it's not a bank restoration.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions to Stephen, if I might.
Go ahead.
Stephen, on the SRF construction loan agreement that you mentioned, that is on the
Yes, sir.
agenda. Yeah, that's on the agenda to be addressed today because there's a different lender for that. It's a corporation the state set up to help fund it. So we have a revised resolution from the last resolution last year and the revised agreement and we'll talk about that when we get to that item.
Okay.
On Arborwood, if I can just ask you a question, 2 questions on Arborwood or a couple in Casella. On Arborwood, have those drainage facilities been conveyed to the district yet?
They have not. We sent them a punch list essentially. I think about 3 months ago now, and we've been waiting for them to address those items. However, that particular pipe was not on the punch list at the time. The record drawings that we have don't show that pipe in conflict with the easement.
Okay, so the record drawings show that pipe is in the easement?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I've been-
right? It's not.
I'm trying to.
This is Arborwood pipe we're talking about. It says the email from the consultant, RWA, said recently discovered that storm structure 70-4 was not installed in the design permitted location on the lot line. It's 2 feet outside the drainage easement.
Okay,
And so, but the record drawings reflect it's in the drainage easement, Stephen?
The record drawing signed and sealed by the engineer of record showed inside the easement. That is correct.
I guess the question I have is I would suggest that because of this, and we've had other surprises along this lines, is that an additional request go out as part of your review of Arborwood to the developer that as part of this turnover, you want the engineering firm to go out and do a double check of all the structures and record drawings, because obviously if the record drawings that have this pipe in the easement have some inverts and elevation, all that kind of good stuff.
In other words, was it dry land?
In other words, this doesn't seem like it. And this would make me nervous. If they have one, how many others are out there?
I asked I've been asking the same question, Tony. So I'm in agreement with you. I've been trying to track down the EOR for the last 2 days, so it hasn't been very long. I did talk to Lennar about it, and I was trying to, get my head wrapped around how there's, conflicting surveys out there. So
Yeah,
I completely agree.
Yeah, I would suggest if you say, in your copy, Laura, so that based upon this issue, please prepare a brand new set of record drawings for all the facilities that you propose to convey. And because this is kind of scary.
Is this Arborwood Phase 3?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Where is where's the outage at? Is it on the sewer that goes out and over to Pelican, or is it internal?
It's a 15-inch RCP that goes from the street between 2 homes to the backyards to a swale. So it collects water in a swale behind the homes, and then it routes the water through that 15-inch to the street, and then, so on and so forth. So the backyard inlet is outside of the easement. The one on the street is centered within the easement, but the one that was installed behind the home was placed outside of the easement. I'll forward, if you would like, I can forward you the email that shows the surveyor's depiction of it.
Yeah, I've given a copy. If you could do that to Bob, I guess also Bob Geppert, I want to see that also.
Yes.
And Mr. Tinkle. Lastly, Stephen, on Casella, maybe it's overkill, but would it be helpful? I think it'd be helpful to have Lennar have an engineering firm do a topo, or not topo, just record drawings of this new bank improvement, just so we have a record drawing to make sure it's correct also. As opposed,
Topographically.
or something to indicate that it's some engineered drawings that they do, not you, because we need to rely upon Lennar for that and their engineer.
And we also want to see.
Okay.
Catch basin of water back there. In
Other
constructed
adverse,
property.
unintended consequences.
So you just want contour intervals to see what's out there.
Okay, that's a chart. Thanks, David. I don't mean to play engineer today.
No, you're doing a great job. Thanks.
Do you want me to give the update on the bond validation,
Well,
Stephen?
before we leave
Okay.
Stephen, I do have one question on the construction on the west side of tree line. Are we verifying that they're going to put aeration in that pond and they got the littorals and pipe videos and all the criteria of our permit manual is going to be adhered to?
Yes, sir. Yep. Those, well, the aerators and the storm pipe videos are required. As far as the littorals, I think they still have to meet the requirements of
No, I don't
whoever
think-
gave them the permit for land development.
But the aerators and the pipes and the, what do you call the map of the contour?
Oh, a bathymetric survey of the lake.
Yeah, so we should have that
Yep.
also.
Yep.
Is the same firm doing all of this work that we're having these issues with?
I don't know, Stephen?
Stephen, is the same firm doing all this stuff?
I think it was a different engineer and developer for C5. And Arborwood, it is Lennar, with the engineer being RWA. And I think there was several different surveying firms used, and there was 2 separate contractors used. That one who did the site work and the drainage, I don't think has done any of the work in Gateway before, and the other one did the utilities. They've done pretty much like all the work in Pelican Preserve.
Does anybody happen to know if those homes are going to be for rental or for sale? Are they condos for sale?
No, they're single family homes, and from what I've been heard that or been told, they've already been sold to owners in Arborwood. Are you talking about C5?
C5, C5.
I think that's multifamily. I don't know.
Well, I
I'm
thought,
not
it
sure.
was- somebody told me today was that they thought they were all rentals, and that's why I asked.
Yeah. I'm
Just,
not-
just regular apartments.
Okay. Rental apartments or for sale condos?
Rental apartments. I hope they're not, but that's first I've heard that. I thought they were condos.
I did too, but that's why I thought anybody might know. Okay.
I know there is a shortage of rental apartments down here.
Anything else for
Nope,
Stephen?
nope.
Okay.
Hey, do you guys need me to stay on for anything regarding the boardwalk and Pelican Preserve? I know we had some emails going back and forth last week on that.
I think it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah, you're going to talk about it under 4D anyway, so.
I'll hang around.
Okay. I'll give the update for the bond validation. We do not have the report ready at this time. There was some additional requests that were made for some capital projections that we did not have the information necessary. Fred and I didn't have it, that information not ready, so he does not have the report put together. So it's not his fault. It came up at the meeting late last week, actually, and he didn't have enough time to get anything put together. So that's why.
Yeah,
there's
the
no
approach
report.
was Rhonda who is assisting us on this, a consultant.
She has for
asked
20
to get-
years.
Yeah, on top of the, 7.3 million, whatever, the one list you already have of improvements. Are there any other capital projects that you want to do in the next few years to add that number into it, to avoid having 2 validations?
So if you
In other
get,
words, have one validation with a larger project list and a larger amount that could
Right,
be
so
issued.
if the board has anything, I mean, obviously, I don't expect you to give it to me right now, but if you could email me, I will compile that list and work with Fred to get that put into his report.
Like our $15 million park. As a for instance.
Well, I mean, I think one thing that we should consider is, facilities overhaul. I mean, there's gonna have to be some money spent for our district facilities. So now whether we come to terms on that or not, but
Storage facility here on site.
storage facility, maybe, you know, this building renovation or new building construction, but
And do we ever want to piecemeal do something in the park? I mean, I don't know what the first step would be, but at least start down the path.
yeah,
Incrementally,
I'd say there would be
rather than-
2 areas is our district facility improvement and, you know, potentially a phase 1 park.
Because it's still pretty cheap. Now's the time to be doing that. Interest rates are going to be going up.
Well, the bond, the validation would only validate a dollar amount. The actual issuance of notes or bonds would come at a later point in
Okay.
time,
Yeah.
and whatever the rates are at that point in time.
Okay.
In other words, you may
So this saves us from having to go through the process twice. So
Yeah,
we're
right,
throwing
right.
Right,
everything
ask
at-
for everything you can think of right now, come up with a huge dollar amount, and then if
Well,
we
I would
don't
use-
use it, then
Yes.
I mean, just for sake of argument, I would use the estimates that we had
for the park.
for the park.
Okay, I think
I
I'm
mean, if
gonna-
we're just putting it in there just to, you know,
Okay.
not have to go through this twice, I think we use that.
You're talking about new park amenities?
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly. People don't want it.
Well,
The people
that's a
don't want it.
separate question. I agree with you.
Yeah.
This is the
This is-
forecast
this is
division.
save us from
I
going
thought you
through
were
the process.
referring to the things that needed to be done to, let's say, renovate what we've got.
Well, here's
That's a different
one thing
issue.
along those lines, depending upon the number and the amount. If you recall that when we go through this process, there's an engineer's report that outlines the proposed capital improvements. And then there's an estimate and opinion of probable cost that's in that table. And they throw in a contingency, an inflation factor, and everything else to come up with a gross number. That, let's just say for discussion purposes, it's $10 million. I don't want to go higher. But if you have the whole park facility, it might be a higher number. Then that number gets taken by Russ Wire. He does his assessment methodology and does a debt service assessment methodology report, which then allocates the debt to all the units on whatever basis is appropriate for that debt service. And then the validation will be on the large number, and part of the validation also validates the assessment methodology and the assessment resolutions. And so the public has the ability to show up at the public hearings to object to all of that, either, you know, what the assessment reports, the levying of the assessments, the actual allocation. The payment of any debt service on a piece of land does not occur until such time as the debt is issued. I mean, so you end up, you have the report and says, here's the maximum amount of debt that can be opposed per unit. Let's just pick a number of $1,000. Again, and so that with all the borrowings that you have, that's the most you can ever have. That's $1,000, say, per year, per unit. That's when sort of the whole discussion about what the community's discussion points will be. When they see that large, if they see an engineer's report that has a large number, then they get Russ's assessment methodology report that allocates that large number based upon a number of factors over all the units.
But what we've had in the past is we've had an identification of the cost of the various components. What we have not had is what does that mean in the way of cost? In other words, what's the cost to finance this? We've never gotten into that. We have just laid out
Well,
that the
there- yeah.
cost of this is $1 million or 500,000 or whatever.
And typically there'll be an indication of there that debt service is exclusive of any interest costs. Because you don't know what the interest rate's going to be, like you said, and that's up to Russ to say, this number is per unit debt service is exclusive of an interest cost, because you don't know what the interest might be. He can assume one for discussion, but until you actually issue the bonds or notes, you don't know what the interest rate's going to be.
Well, the other side of it is, and I know that this doesn't necessarily affect this, but it affects the people making a decision, is what's the O&M side of it. You can have something over there that at the park might be $100,000 for a capital cost to build it, but it might have a $200,000 price tag for operating and maintaining it. So we got to have both of those to be able to present to the people so to know what they're talking
But
about.
that second piece, though, it doesn't really come into play, in my opinion, until such time as if and when it's decided to go ahead with a particular capital project and issue bonds for that capital project. In other words, you validate, for example, if you look at like Ave Maria, they validated almost, I think, $700 million worth of bonds. And they're in no way putting $700 million worth of infrastructure in that community. They kind of capped, they said, they went big, whole hog. Pelican Marsh, I think validated initially like 125 million. They've never issued that much.
Well,
And you don't look, and they don't look at the O&M piece at that time because you may never issue that capped debt.
But it's a true cost that we need to consider. You're right, Ed. I mean, it's more than just buying it.
So I
Once
guess
you
the
buy it,
question
you
is,
gotta-
do you want to have two engineers reports? One that has the list that you had before, which leads up to the 7.3 we borrowed for. Couple with some additional ones that are immediate needs. And then a second one that has O2 plus a larger recreation component
And
to see
maybe
what those
it's,
numbers are.
maybe it's a phase 1, phase 2, or part 1, part 2,
Yeah.
however you delineate it.
Yeah,
Now,
phase 1 of the parks is this, phase 2 of this, and that is not unusual either. You'll see that in these reports.
I mean, if we're adding 2 and there's an order of impact, I do think the budgeting dollars for facilities, to me, would probably be a top priority of what we don't have in there right now. And that could be in excess of 2 million, 2.5 million, depending on, because I think there's constraints on what we can do.
Yeah, I think what you
On-
may want
on
to then do
property.
is have Fred do the report, add those components to it, see what the numbers are, and have Russ sort of do a back of the envelope
Kind of.
initial
assessment.
analysis. So then the board can say add to, subtract from, when you approve the engineer's report.
We jumped,
Well,
this is.
I'm just
4B,
trying to
by the
figure
way.
out is when we had nothing that showed up as having a standout desire. Why are we doing anything other than maintaining what we got?
Yeah, that's a board policy decision.
Yeah, I mean, just, that dog isn't gonna hunt. It's not gonna hunt. But
Well-
operation and maintenance of existing facilities, that's a different story. We got.
But Ed, even if we earmark some money for future, I mean, not to designate what it's gonna go to, but start to build a kitty. So at some point in time in the future, if it's decided we're gonna do that, build whatever.
It's exactly what we have not done in the past,
Right.
that we say
We
we're
talk
going
about
to
it,
do.
scare ourselves to death, we do nothing.
Yeah.
Let's at least start down the path that over time, a future board might have enough of a kitty that they could do something without an undue burden on the community.
Well, that is a problem we've got, is knowing what the total capital and operation and maintenance costs are, to know what each one of these
That's a
ideas
a
are.
down the road issue, but it's a
Yeah.
real issue.
All right, so that was actually 4B. So let's go back. So we'll go, Laura, let's just roll right into the district manager report.
Okay, as of yesterday afternoon, there are now 5 of the 10 license plate reader cameras installed. Both of the ones at Griffin and 82, and both of the ones at Gateway and Daniels are in, and still just the one over in Pelican. They are still having some supply issues getting the parts, so they're working diligently to get the rest of them put in. Tuesday
Did
afternoon.
you say Pelican was yet to be done or?
You
is
have
done?
one still.
We have one.
You have one. The second one is not installed.
One
yet.
is done and another coming.
Yeah, one's been done since before the president's meeting, so it's been in there. But the other, there are 5 total installed right now and 5 yet to be installed. Tuesday afternoon, I went up and had a meeting in the principal's office at the Gateway High School. Met with
Were you bad?
I was not a model student, so it was a little uncomfortable. I met with the principal, and it was not just the principal, it was the dean of student discipline that I met with. So I'm like, okay. No, I had a nice conversation with them about how they're handling the flow of the traffic when parents are dropping off and picking up. And I think they have a really good plan in place. They've been modifying how they do things throughout the year to make sure that everyone stays safe. And she said they do a 4 for as far as dismissals. School gets out at 1:35. The first students are released at 1:30. They have 4 waves. All the kids are gone by 1:45. It was amazing. I left here at 1:45, got up there about 1:50. There was no one, no cars in the parking lot, no students, nothing. They're gone. The entire
So it was
school
just
is empty.
continuous.
Yeah, they just keep going. They have a really good system down. They invited me to come down during a dismissal, and they said they would let me stand there and watch what was going on. So I'm gonna try to do that sometime in the next couple of weeks.
So, but I think part of the topic was not necessarily congestion. It was, the really driving behaviors.
Yes.
And also, I think they put up cones and stuff like that, which,
Yes, that, I did ask them about that. There are 2 lanes going in. They funnel it down to 1 lane. It is 2 lanes all the way across the front of the high school, and they used to do 2 lanes the whole time, but what was happening with the way that they were doing it before is that students were darting between cars, so it wasn't safe. And so they funneled it down to 1, but they bring.
and is that inside their property? Is it
Inside their property.
Okay, yeah. 'Cause
It's
my only concern was like,
well inside their
yeah,
property.
that was my concern. I didn't
Yeah.
think that we want them putting up cones
No,
outside of
the
their
cones
domain.
are well inside the
Are they
parking
still
lot.
mounting the curb down there?
I'm sure they are. That's what I'm gonna watch when I go down during the dismissal, is just to see what's going on.
Wouldn't
You know-
stand in that.
No, I'm
roundabout.
gonna stand off to the side.
But
Yeah.
one thing that
Target.
I don't recall it being out there or anything like that, but, you know, I wonder if just having reflectors around that circle might be something that, well, at night, you know, it helps you kind of direct.
And
And
little
then,
nails in them.
and then even during the day, which is just something that says, hey, this is not a pass
Part
through.
of
And
the
it's, I'm not gonna stop people that continue to do it, but it
Yeah,
may be a deterrent.
They just asked if people just be patient, because she said they watch how long and how far the cars get backed up. And she said it's like 10 or 15 seconds that it takes the kids to get across the street, and then the traffic just starts flowing again. So she said they are not seeing the backup that we're hearing that is there, and they're physically standing there watching what's going on.
Yeah.
And she said they're not seeing it.
Well, the backup's
Hey,
not.
Laura.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Flavia. The issue that we have observed and I have heard is prior to dismissal. So I 100% agree that during the dismissal, it's fast in and out. It's that the parents are going in like significantly earlier than dismissal, and that's when they just don't respect the roundabout and block that. That's when it forces the other drivers to go over. So it's a little bit prior to the dismissal when we see the issue, not during.
Queuing up.
Yeah, they're queuing.
Yeah, like what they do at the.
Yeah, I plan to go down there about
Charter,
115, 120, somewhere in there, so I can see what's going on. So I'm gonna do that sometime in the
Well,
next
so you had a
few
good
weeks.
meeting. We'll continue to
It was,
observe.
yeah, it was a great,
and-
they have my contact information, I have theirs. I said, please let us know if we can do anything to help out, and they said, absolutely. And I said, I asked if there was anything that they wanted me to ask of the community, and they just said, just please be patient. It's brief, it's just a few minutes each day while that kind of gets a little backed up there, and they just asked to please be patient.
Okay.
The mainscape and tree trimming contracts expire at the end of this month. We would like to exercise the auto renew for mainscape and just keep that going. I would like to use the 10-day cancellation for the tree trimming contract. The reason for that is it's not that we are not happy with the service that we're getting from them. At the advice of the arborist, and not that we hired, he said we should actually have two contracts. We should have one for the hardwoods and one for the palms, and do them on an as needed basis. So we're not paying someone every month for not doing anything. That way, if we say, hey, go trim this area, as soon as they're done, then we pay them for that work. So he said that he will help us. He does this all the time for all the other communities. He has some good templates, and I told him that he'd be working with Tony a lot, back and forth. And he said, no, it's not a problem. So we would like to get those split bids put out. We're in really good shape because Personal Touch didn't start right on time last year. It was probably May, June, July before they really started trimming, and they pretty much finished most of the work up, I would say, between October and the end of the year. So we're good for a few months. I did verify that with Jim too. So if we don't have someone right away, April 1st, we're going to be okay.
I mean, I'd rather have regular maintenance than for us to do all these in bulk, because then you're just waiting for it to be heavy and it's not attractive. So, I mean, my personal opinion is if we come up with a schedule where it's maintained on a regular basis.
Well, that's what it would be. It's like you do this chunk and then next you go work
Yeah.
here. So that would, but we're not paying them the same amount every month. It'd be like, they say it's like this amount of trees and we say you go work here. It's 25 hardwoods, and they tell us it's whatever per hardwood. Okay. But then your next is here. So we would give them a schedule where they would have to follow it,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't be paying them every month if they weren't
That's fine. I mean,
doing it.
whatever.
And
you
that
and
was at the
staff
recommendation
kind
of
work
the,
through and figure out the best way to do that.
okay.
The Mainscape, is that Mainscape's full contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
just, it has the thing there, it can auto renew for two consecutive, for 1 year after. So we're reaching the end of the first year and it can go up to 3 years. So we're okay with it. We've been meeting with them. I think I talked about that at a previous meeting, and the relationship is working really well. We have really good communication. They've been very responsive
Same
to
price,
things.
no escalator.
I think they kept this,
Yes.
they kept the same price for all 3 years, I believe. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would at least renew it for a year with gas prices.
Yeah.
and
So
everything
we're
the
just
way it
going to
is.
leave that. We're going to just let them,
Yeah.
that was my recommendation too, is just let
So
that
is
one
there-
keep going.
And if there are any concerns or anything that needs to be addressed, we do it during that time period here. We're
Oh, it's
auto renew,
ongoing.
but,
Yep.
here's some things we just need to be.
Yeah,
acute
we've
on.
had regular communications all during the contract with them whenever we have anything of concern. They've been really good about it. Ronnie was actually here, the arborist, this afternoon, and he is actively working on the plan for that area where we took those oaks out on Gateway. He and Al had some geeky plant people conversations this afternoon about what kind of things do good there, what kind of things don't do so well there, what things we've had luck with, what things we haven't, soil, ground conditions, all that. So Al is gonna just verify with FPL on the height restriction, because I know we have that 14-foot restriction. Is it as far as, are we restricted to planting things that won't grow past 14 feet, or can we plant things and as long as we maintain them at 14 feet or less, will it be okay? So we're clarifying that. And then my one last thing, Georgia and I had a meeting yesterday with the company who does the county's agenda, board book, minutes site, because we've been looking into this whole click thing, and it would be online and the public would be able to click into the documents as well, where right now they can't and they have to request the board books. So it's the same exact thing that Lee County uses.
Yeah.
So we had a meeting with them yesterday afternoon. They're gonna get some numbers together for me and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing.
And the primary thing there, I would imagine, if the county's using it, it's gotta be, well,
Well, no, it's based on size, so we wouldn't pay as much as the
no,
county.
I'm not
does.
talking about that. I'm
It's
just
all
saying,
ADA
It
compliant.
seems, the county's much larger, so I would imagine it should be user friendly.
It's very
right?
user
Both for the
friendly.
board and for
Even from
the-
ours, it's drag and drop. It's
Okay.
so easy. And one last thing, we do have some mushrooms growing in the trailer, the modular, again, in a different spot than where they had worked last time. I have advanced leak detection coming tomorrow to do some leak detection underneath the windows. Apparently they did not check that part last time because we weren't having problems there, but they're coming to check. So you were talking about facilities improvements and I was like, oh, I'm gonna talk about that. So yeah, I don't know, we may need to have some discussions because we already stuck there. Well, there was $30,000. Our insurance covered 29,000 of it. But we've already spent $30,000 to repair the trailer and it's gonna need some more work.
Hence the need for additional dollars in that capital.
Yes. And I think that's everything that I have. Thank you. Any questions?
No, but I will just say, kind of getting back to that capital, I think maybe we may need to have a workshop with engineering around that to plan. Because my fear is, based on restrictions on what you can add on to and what you can do, I think one option that we're gonna have to strongly consider is a tear down and just reconfigure this space that we have here.
You mean this building or the new building we just added?
This building and that building. I mean, like, it's just complete refiguring this whole property. And the only way that I can see to do it most efficiently is, because we got so many things we cannot do from an add-on perspective. And again, I'm just spitballing here. It's not my area of expertise, but the more I think about it, for what we need would almost entail tearing this building down, redesigning the whole plat, and, which, I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of, just speaking out loud. That's what I would like us to be thinking about. And maybe we need to get Tetra Tech in here. And that might be something down the road we do in 2 years or whatever. But again, we need to start planning for it and understand where our growth is. And we've got so much stuff sitting out here and we need somewhere to put it. So anyway, topic for another time. Okay. Elle, did you want to give us an update?
Good afternoon, Elle Harris, Gateway Services District Stormwater Specialist. Hopefully you've had a chance to read over the report in the book. Couple of things to note. On page 1 there, our valley gutter on Gateway Boulevard. That one section is terrible. We've just approved a proposal to repair just that one section, and that's right about $6,000.
And we're repairing that because there's damage.
Well, because that's broken, loose concrete there. If a big truck was to come over that and throw one of those.
But we're paying for it because it's tree.
Because it's tree root related. Riding down through that area, I noted about 7 other areas that are also, the curbing and valley gutter is not broken like it is in this one, but it's very close. It's very rough. The tree roots are pushing up the pavement. It won't be long. And just a note, this very section that you're looking at the picture right here, this was repaired less than 2 years ago when Brian was here. When we spent $13,000 to repair this valley gutter. Not just this one and many other sections there along Gateway Boulevard. So we've got about 6 or 7 other sections that are going to be following fairly closely behind. I did not get proposals.
Trees alone are causing this kind of a degradation in that brief period.
That's correct.
Some of those are 8 inches in diameter, Bob.
We're talking
Huge.
about a live oak. It can literally break up the foundation to your home if you plant them that close.
That's what the majority of these people don't understand. May not be a bad idea to somehow post this on something, but this is exactly what's going to continue all the way down Gateway Boulevard. with
Like I
these
say,
areas.
this section right here is $6,000 to repair
On top of the 13 that we spent.
on top of the 13 we spent last year.
And if we,
Oh, well, no, about a year and a half ago. I'm sorry.
And we already have,
Yeah.
we already have bumps starting in the cycle.
That's right.
And Al, I have a quick question. That's the same one that we did also prune the roots in addition to fixing the gutter, right?
That's correct. And the current proposal is also including pruning the roots back before, once they take all of this out, prune the roots and then repair the section.
Yeah, I just wanted residents to understand that we just didn't go in and fix the gutter. We actually, because I remember the pictures, the roots are really, they're really large, and we did trim them back. So.
Yeah, there's not much that can stop an oak tree.
so can we talk to the arborist? And I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to sound ridiculous, or at least, maybe counterintuitive, but the biggest problem we have with these oaks is just their age. You know what?
Root damage.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to say what I'm going to say.
The destructive nature of the road.
Yeah, I'm going to read.
They don't go down. They
We
just go
had
out.
similar conversations earlier this afternoon with the arborist.
Okay, moving on, you'll note that I added a list in here. This is what Ed Tinkle was referring to earlier for point repairs in the ponds and ponds that need to have the stone not replaced. We need to go in and cover up the TRM where stone is now missing. I've got a list of it here. And I actually have added 2 more ponds to my list of ponds that need stone added to them.
And is that just from erosion or just?
They're either rolling down the hill or kids are throwing them in the pond or water fluctuation, but they're ending up at the bottom.
Several of these ponds aren't quite at 4 to 1.
That you're going to get.
Yeah, so you're going to get that rolling downhill.
What are the 2 ponds that you got in addition to 104?
126 and 60.
126
And 60.
And is that rock replacement on those 2?
Yes. And just to note, Lake 60, we spent $10,000 adding stone to that one last year.
What about the pond I'm on, 16?
That's on there. 116 is on there. I've got 10 plus locations where I noted exposed TRM on Lake 116.
Oh, okay. But that's-
It's number 5.
okay. No, that's good.
So we do have money in the budget this year for point repairs and maintenance. So I've estimated that we'll probably use, there's $235,000 in it right now. I estimate to use probably upwards of 100 to 120,000 of that, just fixing washouts. And the rest of it is going to go to put stone back on the ponds where it's missing now. 2 of the ponds on that list, I think I put the number down wrong. I put 106 and 107. That should have been 107 and 108.
Yeah.
Those ponds were done in 2015. And we did not do the golf course side. We put TRM on it, but we did not put stone on it. So, I would just like to know how the board wants me to go handle that. Do we want that covered? Since the concern was exposure of the TRM to the ultraviolet sunlight and deterioration.
How many square foot?
200 feet, lineal feet on both of those ponds. They're on the golf course side.
So that's about What's the cost to stone?
I don't have numbers for that yet. I've contacted, actually, I contacted Extreme Divers. They're here working in Daniels Preserve. And I contacted them only because Met Tower is extremely booked up at the moment.
Any issue from the golf course?
So I don't have
I
numbers for
talked to
that.
them on that because everybody was of the understanding we were going to try to put littorals on those sides and see how the littorals went. And
There's no area there that I can put littorals in. That is, that has a black
fabric.
fabric and Propex on top of it.
So you couldn't even puncture.
Yeah,
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
that's a problem.
I think
So you'd have to go back to like the number 4s that we've been using.
Well,
Yes.
what's wrong with just leaving it the way it is? Why do you have to do anything?
Because we have several $1,000s worth of TRM exposed to the summer sun. And it is washing out on the golf course side. We've got a drop off on 107. That's about 7 inches, 8 inches maybe.
What does the golf course want to do about it or anything?
It's our
That's what I
pond.
just asked.
Well, I understand it's our pond.
It
It doesn't hurt us if,
well,
as long as we don't
Mr.
have a
P,
safety issue.
what would the,
You mean, ask them what would the golf course like to see in there?
No, what are they willing to do?
What do
It's
you mean?
their land. What do they want to do with
It's our pond though. They
it?
won't do
I
it.
understand it's our pond, but what do we care? As long as it's not a safety issue,
Good. I mean, why are we not doing it?
I don't think we should do it.
We
As
have
long as
to,
we don't have a safety issue.
well, if we have a safety issue, we have to do it because South Florida
Correct, I
says we
agree
do.
with that.
Yeah.
If it's not a safety
If,
issue.
if they're not a safety issue, I guess the question is why is it on the list?
shouldn't
well,
we-
But
because I was
but if-
asked to
but if we have
provide a
fabric-
list.
If we have fabric exposed, then we're back to an issue.
That's why it's on the
Because, I mean, we
list.
spent good money on it. We don't want to have its life.
We didn't put anything on that fabric when we put it down. There was never anything put on it.
So there's no
There is
difference today than
soil
when we put it
washed in over the top of 107 or 108. Yeah, there's soil washed in, but we didn't put that soil there. It's washed in from the golf course side.
So the only thing that we could do, and that would be relatively inexpensive, again, because those slopes are not that severe there at all,
No,
is to go back in, put in the material to get it to grade, put in the filter cloth, wrap it around at the top, and then put the stone on top of that and minimize the Armamax.
Or you could put coconut mesh on top of it for about 1/10 of the price. Keep on trucking.
What do you put on the top of it though?
Just put the coconut mesh. Got a little bit of sod with it. It's
But somebody'd have to do a shot. I don't know what the elevations are relative to where the sod would be covered up with water, but that's something to look at.
I mean, by the time the golf ball gets there, it's out of play. It's OB. So,
Well, it's basically out of play anyway.
yeah, that's what I mean. So
It's not in play.
why would we fool with it? I can't see spending money on that.
well, I was asked to provide a
I
list.
understand that. That's why we.
Okay, so,
My vote is to do nothing. Just let it go. Maybe if you do anything, put some coconut mesh on it and keep on trucking.
okay, one other thing, and then we'll move on to the landscape. I checked with a contractor. I have a price of $1,595 to add a walkthrough gate at the soccer park for the boater, the sailboater, the remote boat club. And, you know, actually where I was looking at it to put it in, it would also benefit the group that comes over to play bocce ball. And there was 9 of them over there. There's a good group that comes over to play bocce
Where do
ball.
they park to get to that gate? They walk?
It's right there off of the parking lot.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
If everybody's
You're talking
okay.
Just right over here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's right off the parking lot, right there, right at the end of the bocce ball court, basically. Second, now with
Now,
that,
and there's a value to that too, because let's say there's certain times during the summer where there's maintenance happening on the field side. So we can shut that gate, you know, to keep people from going to the field and still have the playground available. And that's where I would even maybe look at opening up the backside of the playground potentially. But now it would give people an opportunity to still leverage the pavilion, leverage the bocce court and the playground during the summer when we're doing maintenance on the field.
And that's within Laura's spending authority right now. So
right. Now, the other thing along with that is, you know, I've been asked to check into a sidewalk. When I was over there looking at this, you know, we have other walk-through gates that don't lead to a sidewalk. They lead out onto the grassed field or lead out into a grassed area. So at this point, I'm thinking that, if we're not going to look fully into a dock any further, we really don't have to worry about the sidewalk. It's just basically a walk-through gate with access to the park.
Or forecasted in the future needs, next budget.
Well, I
You
think,
want to do it.
yeah, we should probably just need to look at like just that area as far as how does it want to, how do we want it to mature over time? You know,
Right.
So just
You
putting
don't
one
want
way
it
to the
muddy.
bocce court, I mean, that,
Yeah, you don't want
Right.
muddy and ugly, but you don't need to do everything right now.
Right, and we also don't want to just put in the sidewalk leading to the pond from the parking lot so that, kids can take off out there. We don't want to give them a reason to run down that way.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is, again, if we want to provide an access to the backside of that part, which is the playground, the pavilion, okay, well, now you can get to it without having to, come in the front entrance.
Right,
Yep. Yep. that makes
Right.
sense.
right, absolutely. Laura covered most of the landscaping for me. I do have one. Can I bring this up? Thought we were gonna put this one in there.
It's on there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. The landscape contract for Pelican Preserve.
it's down farther in the agenda.
Is it? I just didn't even see it on there.
Yeah, it's
Um,
under 4C.
It went
Right here.
before, can I do it now or do you want me to just wait?
We need to be conscious of the time. 'cause
Well,
our
that's why
first
I'm trying to
interview's
hurry
at
on
3,
through it
so-
and get it done.
Sure.
Um,
Actually, it's not my decision. I'm sorry.
The Pelican
Mr. Banks
Preserve
can decide.
Committee approved Ameriscape. It's bid to take over their landscape maintenance within Pelican Preserve. And our recommendation is to allow Ameriscape to be awarded the contract
They
as
currently have it,
recommended.
And they were a low bidder.
They've been there, yes.
It's actually less expensive
They're
with the
the,
new
they are
contract.
the incumbent.
They're happy with it.
So is that a yes?
Yeah, that's a yes, unless somebody has an objection.
Do we need a
You
motion
need
on?
formal action,
Yep.
yes. We do. To accept the recommendation to award the bid for the Pelican Preserve landscape contract as recommended by staff to Ameriscape.
And by PPAC.
Yes,
PPAC, yes.
that's what I
make
said.
that motion.
Okay.
Just like any-
Any questions on the landscape report?
Did Mr. Guy have a chance to vote?
Well, we haven't called the vote yet.
Oh,
I'm
Any
sorry.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, I'm trying to hurry along. Are there any questions on the landscape report that was included in the book?
I don't have anything besides the email that I sent to Jim right before he left to Juan regarding some irrigation issues that he was gonna get back to me. I still haven't heard from Mainscape on none of the issues on the list.
Okay.
Could you please
Yeah, we
forward
say
that
work
to
with
me? I'm
Al.
sorry, I'm not familiar with those issues.
Okay.
I know I've brought a few of them recently that I've seen and just driving through the community. I've sent them a few customer service requests on irrigation. May not be the ones that you saw
Yeah,
though. I
Juan
would
says
be
he
happy
was-
to follow up on
Yeah,
that.
Juan says he was gonna look into it. He just never got back to me. So he's aware.
Understood. Okay, is that all for me?
Nothing
Thank you
else?
so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Scott.
Scott Connell, Capital Improvements. You have my updated list there real quick. Stephen already talked about lake banks. Let you know at Daniels Preserve on the cleaning out on the drainage concern there of the 48-inch pipe. The divers have uncovered both ends of the pipe now and have continued to dredge, and they should complete dredging the first of the week. So it's going as per plan. The other item that's ongoing is tomorrow, the paving and striping crew will complete the little punch list items out here for the soccer complex parking. A couple little paint items there. And that's really it. We've already talked about the Weir access and Casella. So those are the key components and activities.
Anything for Scott?
Okay, thank you.
And Scott, your last day is when?
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks. Okay, so
Load them up.
All right, great, thanks.
Scott, I do have one question. What did we decide regarding the last space on the parking lot by the dog park? Are we gonna come back and add it, asphalt there, or we're just gonna leave it the way it is?
You're talking about the far slot on the right as you're
Mhm.
driving in on the right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
The
that
one that-
wasn't paved originally. Let me check, see if we can just do that in-house. I mean, I didn't
Okay.
add it to the punch list because it wasn't there originally. It wasn't part of their scope of work. So maybe we can,
So I want to make sure, I don't know if you had a chance to go back. I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. I'm not talking about the addition from where the parking lot ends all the way to that gate. I'm just talking about maybe the 20 feet by 1 foot that's missing behind the actual parking spot.
in front of the wheel stops?
Behind it.
I'm sorry, I'm not following. I'll have to look at that with you,
Okay.
if you would.
So-
Yeah.
Sounds like a dimensional issue. But
I
it's
don't
not- They
know.
didn't make it big enough.
Well, it looks to me that they wanted it to create another parking spot, which is fine, but they didn't create a road to go into it. So half of your car is in the road, on the dirt, when you back out, and half it's on the asphalt. So either,
Is it, if you drive into the dog parking, straight at the end of the soccer drive,
so if you go straight, it's gonna be on your right side.
right, it's that last space.
Mhm.
There was never asphalt there because that was the paving going into the OAK facility there, their storage facility. So they only resurfaced what was existing. But maybe we can
Yeah.
add some coal patch or something and butter it up or
But
whatever.
they didn't do a straight line, what I'm saying. I'm saying if the parking spot was this much, then right after what a car will go by, it's this much. So when the car is backing out of the parking space, half of the car is on the dirt road and half of the car is on the asphalt. So either they shouldn't have made that space or they should have continued
Well,
a foot, just a
okay.
foot all the way down.
And
I
they
guess
make-
you have to look at it.
understand
to
that.
see what
Make
it
it for motorcycle.
They
Yeah,
matched,
exactly.
they
Or
matched
just
what was
stripe it,
existing,
or
so.
just stripe it and not use it, but I
Okay,
just thought.
well,
it
maybe
made
we'll just
sense.
remove it and then you won't have an issue, but
My-
I'll look at that. It wasn't paved initially is my
Okay.
point. But I understand what you're talking about now. Thank you.
Did you want to jump ahead to the interviews then, since we do have, Mr. Whitfield is waiting online? He was scheduled for 3
Yes,
o'clock.
yeah, we will come back to the action items. So we will proceed with our district manager interviews, and we've got Michael Whitfield, who is first.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Mr. Whipple, thank you for joining us today and attending this board interview during our regular meetings. We appreciate that. We've got all of our board members and staff here today, as well as some residents in the room as online as well. I think what I'd like to do, if the board doesn't mind, is just kind of start it with just have Michael give us just a brief introduction. And then we can jump into questions. We've got allotted, what's our time for this one?
Half hour, but we gave you a 45
Yeah,
minute.
we have about 30 minutes here. So I think in your introduction, what I would like to do is just touch on a high level in your background and experience.
Okay, certainly. Yeah, so happy St. Patty's Day. So I've been in the engineering and construction industry now for a little over 40 years. I've got a bachelor's in engineering, also an MBA, certified construction manager. And so a lot of the things that I have done in my part of my career is early on, did a lot of heavy design work, including machine design, structural design, highway design, bridges, signals, crosswalks, pedestrian features. Then I got into the other half of my career where I did a lot of program management, owned my own engineering company. I was the director of public works at the City of Falls Church in Virginia for a number of years. Currently assistant director here in Columbia County. And so with that, I've got a lot of background in preparing contracts, negotiating contracts, anything to do with government facilities. Also do quite a bit of management in the past for vertical construction. So I know we're kind of pressed for time, so that's me in a nutshell.
Can you give us just an idea, just so we can kind of understand your kind of span of control and scope? your public works department at Columbia County is, how big is that? Just if you can give us something to be able to gauge size.
Yes, so the Public Works Department here is very small. We have 26 people, 500 miles of road. And we have our own in-house fleet. And I think the county overall may have approximately 100 to 150 employees.
Okay. We can jump in for questions. We'll, Bob, we can start down at your end.
Well, fortunately, we got to watch the interview process with Al Teague, and that answered also just about all of my questions. I mean, you seem to be well qualified for the position. I do see you bounce back and forth bi-coastally, and you're trying to bounce back to Florida. I mean, this is a great place to live. Is that one of the why you're heading this way?
Yes, so yeah, Florida is my home. Lived here for 25 years. So my father was in the military, so we moved around quite a bit when he retired, and he ended up in Alabama. I went there with him, stayed there 10 years, came down here and stayed here for 25 years. The only reason I left in 2008 is because of the recession. So kind of drove me away. I was working for a consultant, had to follow the work. And when I did retire from the city of Falls Church, I went out west talking with some individuals that I knew, and I was going to go to work for them, but I did not. Kind of ended up here just to wait and see what we wanted to do, and we know we want to go back to Florida. So that's why I'm looking for some opportunities, and I saw this, and I said, well, this is a great opportunity, and I would be a perfect fit.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
and Bill, I'm going to go over to you just to see if you have any questions for Mr. Whitfield.
Who are you asking?
You, Bill, if you have any questions or feedback.
Yes, Mr. Whitfield, you said you'd like to return to Florida, and I can thoroughly understand that. So I left Ohio and came to Florida 20 years ago, but I'd like to hear you tell me exactly why you want to return to Florida, if you will, please.
Certainly. So like I said, this is my home. My family is still here. We brought 3 children down here when my wife and I moved here in 1983. And so we want to come back here with our family, and we have no other family out here where we're at currently in Oregon. And I love it in Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Flavia, we will go to you.
I just kind of want to digging a little bit on that question. And given that if you'll be given the opportunity to work with us, you're going to start working on a budget that was already previously adopted by a board. How would you manage it? And I mean, I guess walk me through the steps of how would you reassess the community needs as they are now, since you'll be bringing, fresh lenses, but also maintain within the budget.
Yes, so I would review the budget and obviously and all the programs that go with it and the services that needed to be provided. Making sure that they do balance. Can we actually perform all those services? Do we have the resources in order to perform all those services? And I did listen in earlier, and I hear there are some challenges, and there's always solutions. There's more than one solution for a problem. Budgets are always one of the bigger issues. I've been faced with those my entire career, so I have overcome some of those in the past. And the way I did that is I looked for alternate solutions. I think everyone initially, the first thing they want to do is they want to rescope something, and it's like, well, we can't afford to do it, so we'll change it. So I kind of take a little bit of a different approach. I take the approach of how can we make this still work with the funding that we have, even though we already have certain individuals and resources lined up. I can give you a great example. I had a project in Pinellas County, and it was Brooker Creek Preserve. It was a $10 million project. They took $1 million out of my budget, and so I had to find out how to make up that budget. what I did is I enlisted some in-house parks department individuals along with their equipment, and we put in all the infrastructure for that particular preserve. It was about a 180-acre site, so we had almost a mile of utilities that we had to put in through wetlands. So I did find alternate ways to make the budget work.
Thank you.
And Supervisor Tinkle.
Yes, thanks for being with us, Mr. Whitfield. Your resume and your past experiences offer me no challenge to rebut on the water, the sewer, that type of stuff. My problem is that I didn't see mentioned, and one of our largest problems here is our public works side, which is predominantly the stormwater management system. Being a native Floridian, I don't have to tell you about ponds and wetlands and that type of thing. I don't see that you have or at least have not demonstrated a knowledge of stormwater management, ponds, wetlands, bank erosion, and if you were on earlier, you heard a little discussion about that. What or how do you plan on handling that aspect of the engineering here in what we call that public works department?
Of course. So to start with, I'm still a qualified stormwater inspector with FDEP. So I have done quite a bit of this in my past. Started out doing a lot of the design work, obviously. So I've designed numerous stormwater retention areas, even kind of going through the early 80s in Florida when they started changing some of the regulations. And one of the things that I did perform, and again, this is when I worked over in Pinellas County, I was a program manager at the time. And so we had stormwater facilities, and they needed to be recertified either on a 3 or 5 year basis. And so finding out that the facility managers really did not keep track of that. So what I did is I helped them set up a program and got a consultant on board to help me. I used some in-house forces where we went through and we actually identified all the different stormwater facilities. We had one at the jail, which was fairly large. And the problem there was it was never maintained. It had an exfiltration trench, which had gravel, had some material on top of it, perforated pipe. It had plugged up. So that means that we were not getting any treatment through that system. So first thing we did is evaluate those, take those out. We put new material in. So that was something that I had to establish because every 3 years they had to get this thing recertified. So I'm very well versed in what goes on. I've worked a lot with the water management districts, both in soft mud and swift mud.
So you've got an experience then or an understanding of things like escarpments that are greater than 9 inches, slopes that are greater than 4-to-1 slope that South Florida Water Management District and the county is putting on us as far as maintaining these 70-some ponds, of which for the first 25, 26 years of our history had absolutely nothing done to them. And that's why we're spending millions of dollars now. So you familiar with things like Armamax and Coconut, GeoWeb, and some of those products that are we have been using tremendously to stabilize these banks?
Yes, absolutely. So stabilizing embankment is one of the issues I know in Florida because of the soils. The soils there are obviously very sandy. And so it's very hard to stabilize those, and it does create a lot of silt. So we start getting into issues with MS4, NPDES, and how do we maintain those systems? And so I know that the water management districts there, they have kind of upped their game, and for a reason, because Florida is a very sensitive environmental state. So I've used quite a bit of those. Currently use those in my position now. A little bit of different setting here. So we have a lot of landslides because of water, and we're always finding new ways and ideas of how to actually prepare these things. When I was in Florida, I did find a few methods that I used to take care of some of the ponds in general. I had actually built a pond the very first rain event that we had. It plugged up. And so Maintenance wise, we had to find different ways. We started creating concrete troughs to put some of the exfiltration trenches in so that we could remove them easy. So there's always a solution. These things have been going on for a number of years, and I'm glad that I was involved in a lot of those. And yes, I have used virtually every material out there, and I will continue to explore additional material as it becomes available.
Thank you very much. That answers my question on my biggest worry, stormwater management.
Yeah, Gateway proper has 88 ponds roughly.
I think 75 or 76 is the
And
last.
then there's
I-
58
and then
in an
another
area.
30 wetlands.
And there's 58 in the communities of Pelican Reserve. So we've got a lot of ponds.
So thank you. I have a couple questions. The first one is, give me your interpretation based on either what you know or your existing experience on the district manager role and what that responsibility looks like.
Well, to me, what it means is we're here to provide a service for the community. So that's kind of priority number one. And the second thing is, how do we provide that service? How efficient is that service? And so maintaining those services, the resources typically are the ones that kind of get in our way, so to speak. And then when I say get in our way, we're always shorthanded. And so we do end up doing multiple things. It's not just one person doing one thing. We have one person doing multiple things. And that's a way that we have to juggle those resources. So it's a matter of how do you manage those resources.
Okay. And in your current role now, your hierarchy, who you report directly into? What, the director of public works?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then you're ultimately accountable to the county commissioners?
Correct.
So your direction comes from that governing body, correct?
That is correct.
And the reason why I ask is, in our environment, you got a board where the direction comes from. You have to basically, take that direction, sometimes interpret it, and then go and execute and deliver that, through staff, right? So, so just having some parallel experience, I think, is definitely understanding the environment is important. And in your current role, how is success defined? Like, how are you measured on whether you're doing a good job or not?
Well, other than being told, I think what I can measure that in is, what have I provided to the community? And so I'll give you a couple of examples maybe. I know that the county had spent way too much money on fleet. And so one of the first things I did for the fleet was I started looking for grants for money to replace some of the fleet. I did submit one last year. And then the other thing was I started doing a fleet replacement plan and kind of figured out we had 100 pieces of equipment, a lot of it heavy equipment, 19 years old. The problem there was it was so aging, it cost us too much money yearly to maintain because they were constantly breaking. We had a lot of downtime. And so I prepared this document and I came up with a plan for doing a lease so that we could lease some of the equipment and start getting a cycle. Most of this stuff should have been replaced at 15 years. And in doing so, we were actually saving money. So when I sat down, kind of crunched the numbers on it, did the math, it made more sense to do a lease. We are expending only half of the budget that we normally would yearly, having new pieces of equipment and reduced our repair costs. So that was something that I thought was very successful. So I was saving the citizens quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and if you take that's a little bit of a micro view. If you take it up a notch to macro, I'm sure there's a budget that the Public Works Department has. I'm sure there's projects that you're managing that you have to deliver on time, at quality. I'm sure that there's other things, as far as the, what falls under Public Works, as far as, the quality of whether it's roads or whatever. Do you have areas that are aligned to those items?
Oh, of course, yes. So our budget, I want to say it's around 14 million. And what we do with the funds is we have a number of programs, and and most of those programs have not really excelled. When I first came here, the CIP program is also under myself, and I've got an engineer that's trying to manage some of those. Don't have a lot of resources again, and so managing the not only CIP but also the fleet, the operations, some of the things that are going on there, some of the facilities that we need. And so looking at the budgets that had been established, one of the first things that I did realize is the way that the budgets were actually established, they were a little bit lacking. And so we had to kind of go back, take a look at these things. And so I've done that recently. We have a particular facility that they wanted to build, saw that we couldn't build it. And so what I was suggesting is we do it in 2 phases. We do it part of it this fiscal year, part of it next fiscal year, so that we can actually work this into our budget.
Yeah.
So I do get involved with, we're going through budget season right now. Fiscal year ends in June 30th. And I'm quite accustomed to doing that. When I was at the City of Falls Church, I took our budget in the department and I split it into 17 different cost centers. And the only reason I did that was we had 17 different programs. And I wanted each program manager to manage their budget. And of course, I helped them on a weekly basis. I met with everyone and I helped them with those budgets so that we could move these programs forward.
Yep. And so tell us, what are your major hurdles or challenges in Columbia County in Public Works?
Right now, it's resources. Very difficult to find people. This is a very rural area out here. And, you know, just trying to find someone to do the work. So I do a lot of things myself. Like I said, if you have one individual just doing one thing, then we're not doing very well. So we do multiple tasks, multiple programs that we have to manage.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I'll ask is just, can you just talk to us about your leadership, your approach, your style?
So I do have I want to call it a calm demeanor. And so I like to let everyone take their programs and their projects and run with them. And I do meet with my staff on a weekly basis just to get updates, discuss issues, and kind of do one of these little small roundtables where we can discuss the things and determine what the best path forward is. And so when I do that, it allows that person to expand their knowledge. It also allows that person to be able to grow and be able to make their own decisions. And I do support my staff 100%. And when I say 100%, I let them make some decisions. I will not let them fall off the cliff. I will grab them before they fall off the cliff.
Yeah. And if your staff had, let's say, 3 words to describe you, how do you think they would do that? Just 3 ways they would describe.
Well, I've been told that I was a great boss to work for, but that was one of the things I had actually had a big discussion with a lot of employees when I left the city in Falls Church.
Okay. Anything else?
Mike, do you have the support, and probably a dumb question, but is the family looking forward to this, or is this a disruption to them? Because your support network at home is just as important as at the job. And so I'm sure that they've had some comments about this.
Oh, yes, they're all looking forward to it. So we're all looking forward to coming back to Florida.
I have one question. Will you be looking for money for relocation?
Well, if it's offered, I certainly won't say no.
Okay.
But that is not going to be a deciding factor.
Mr. Whitfield, a couple of other questions on things that we need to do here. One of them is, what's your association with preparing a capital reserve plan? Have you had much experience in preparing a capital reserve plan for the utility?
So I have, and it's been associated with stormwater. It's also been associated with sanitary sewer. We had enterprise funds for some of those that I had been involved with. And so I did have program managers. And so I worked with my program managers to actually get these things established. had a very healthy budget and base funding for a lot of the projects that we had there. So some of these things, obviously, we had to outsource. So when we outsourced some of these, we did a lot of analysis and modeling, obviously, so that we knew where we were at with some of these enterprise, especially the utilities, to determine first, what needed to be repaired, what kind of projects we needed to come up with, and we had to schedule these accordingly. And so I can give you an example real quick where we did the sanitary sewer, 60 years old. We went through, we TV'd it. We also had a lot of I&I in our sanitary sewer. And so we came up with an analysis for some of the new development. And those are based on small area plans. Once we determined what those developments were, then we started to actually increase capacity on some of the sanitary sewer. And the ones that were aging and leaking, rather than replacing some of these because there were a lot of clay pipe, we just lined them. So we did the lining, we did the capacity increase. And so that was one of the programs that we implemented there. One of the other things that we did for the maintenance guys, we got them tablets. So when they went out in the truck and they were cleaning the sanitary sewer, they could actually record all the information live as they were doing their work.
Okay. Reason I bring that up is that we have robbed Peter to pay Paul for years. Finally getting the start of a capital reserve plan, but we got a long way to go, especially considering that we're getting up 35 to 37 years in age on some of our utility infrastructure, 28 pump stations, and each one of these things are running $350,000 to $400,000. That takes a lot of money to keep those things going, and just putting out fires and doing bond issues to try to keep this thing afloat isn't the way to do it. We need to have some long-term planning. So that's why I was asking. To me, capital reserve is a top item that anybody that comes in here is going to have to get a hold of and take. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right.
Last question. If the position was offered to you, what do you think the timeline is for you to be able to transition into that role?
About 30 days.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we appreciate your time today. The way the process will work is, we are going through that interview phase, and it's our intent to move as quickly as we can on this position. So at the conclusion of today's meeting, or at least immediately following, someone will get in touch with you to let you know what next steps are.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one last question?
Sure.
Mr. Whitfield, if you are successful in being appointed to this position, how many years do you expect that you'd like to work full-time in Florida?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how long I'm going to live, so I don't have any plans of retiring at this point. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that because I don't know how long that, as long as my health is good and, I'm having fun, to me, the type of work that I do is fun. So if I'm enjoying it, I'm going to continue doing it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take about just a 5-minute recess. So we'll reconvene, let's say around 3:32.
Stop.
How you feeling?
Phil, everything happens. Phil, full drop. Go home, enjoy your walks. Oh, sorry. The other one, Phil. Somebody else. Joe got me. Joe started. Joe started. Just trying to. Is that one? Is that one? Yeah, you know what? He needs to get it on. Well, I want, it's right there on my computer here. That's right there. Every day it's on.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to mention this, but one of our discussions about that was hiring somebody to come down and that project. His name happens to be Tony Walsh.
Did you work for the board?
Push people on the board.
Yeah. My name's Tony.
That was pretty much it.
Are you not completely retired, or are you just, you're never going back? But I gave that guy that runs the football. Well, you know, try not. Was all they could get,
I don't know, I just saw that. I don't know if it's an update on what they're doing.
Which scares me.
Yes. Yes. I mean, if you feel, because I think it's, so we got to get some.
I don't, no, not yet. We won't get anything until, well, I have the timelines, but I don't have, yeah. Yeah, I have it tracked somewhere in
Then we have
project.
to move.
We won't get the stuff from Steve until probably end of April. Yeah,
Trying to get some major projects figured out.
the February financials, I would expect that we would get maybe next week. So she usually sends them all like about the third week of the month after, so I don't know if you would get that by next week. I can tell you guys where you're at as far as like what you've spent so far, or what we have allocated on the line items that I checked to procure, but that's not everything. Because I do that every Wednesday. I pulled that out of there, so it would include anything we've issued POs for.
We'll have some.
You know, our bills we've paid.
Okay, let's get back to order, please.
Sorry, I get to review it.
Okay, so Tony, we're gonna reconvene. The next portion of our meeting today is we have Chelsea O'Reilly coming in. And we will conduct our second.
May or may not work, so I might have to slide that over here to here.
Okay, that's fine.
Microphone would be have some feedback, but I got my button on my finger.
Button just in case.
We'll get feedback.
So I'll
Yeah.
just turn this over here.
Yeah.
I figured it would, but I wanted to be sure.
Can you set the laptop up at the podium?
But then she still has to stand. I didn't want her to have to stand for 45 minutes.
Well, it should only be 30 minutes.
Are you sure? Well, then I'll set it up over here then. All right.
So-
Here's a.
Yep, Chelsea, so if you want to come up to the podium, we'll try to keep it at 30 minutes. So,
Okay. Last 30 minutes, if it starts cooling down, let me know and I will.
Okay.
Get you in there. Not me, you.
Oh, yeah.
You can
So
adjust it.
first, we want to welcome you here today.
Thank you.
And we have all had a chance to review your background. We reviewed also the video that was recorded with kind of the pre-call with Cal. the way it'll work today is we're just gonna have you spend just a couple minutes just kind of giving an overview of you and your background.
Okay.
And then we're gonna shoot questions at you.
All right.
Okay. So feel free to jump right in.
All right. So my name is Chelsea O'Reilly. I am the current Public Works Director for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I've been in that role since 2017. Our previous Public Works Director left 1 week before Hurricane Irma hit, and I was his assistant at the time. So we had a new town manager, and it was kind of a sink or swim situation. And
Literally.
yes, literally, literally. Stepped up to the plate, given a chance, proved myself. Prior to that, I'd been in Public Works since 2013 as his assistant. You'll see through my resume that I slowly moved up with the town. I started in the Parks and Rec department. I worked at our historical site, Mound House. I was at the pool. But I got my bachelor's degree from Stetson University. I was born in Indiana, but I was raised on Fort Myers Beach by my grandparents since I was 10. So I've actually lived here longer than I lived in Indiana. I got my master's degree from Florida Gulf Coast University in public administration. That was in 2020. Thank you, COVID. It was all online. One good thing of it. So ultimately, I'm looking to move up. I've been with the town. That's my one and only employer. But I did get my master's degree to move up in some type of management level, if it's a district manager, village manager, assistant county manager, city manager, you name it. So when I saw this position become available, I quickly applied, and we're here today.
Great. Thank you. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go around the horn. We'll ask you some questions. So Bob, we're gonna start at your end.
Okay, Chelsea, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here today. How much and how extensive has your stormwater management experience been with the beach and in South Florida particularly? South Florida Water Management.
Yes. So in 2017 and prior, I was the assistant to the Public Works Director, and he oversaw the stormwater program for the town and implementing that stormwater management system and a stormwater fee and assessment. I dabbled my hand in that, but I did a lot of the back end stuff. I was doing the paperwork and the grants with, we used Tetra Tech, and we still use Tetra Tech at the time. More currently, I have 3 projects to the tune of $10 million. And all of those, of course, are going through Swift Mud and going through the ringer. So I have connections there, and I've seen the process. I've been through the process. And
has bank erosion been one of your issues? Do you have a lot of stormwater funds down there?
We have some stormwater through SRF, but it's not banks. It's just a stormwater system, pipe and ground system. Mm-hmm.
We'll stay in the same order. So Bill, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, and you're muted.
Mr. O'Reilly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very impressed with your resume. And actually, I've done some background on you, and I've gotten some very remarkable positive responses for which I applaud you. I'd like to know, you have your address here. Do you live in the city of Fort Myers? Are you married? Do you have kids? Can you put enough time on this job?
So yes, I do live in Fort Myers. I actually live in Briarcliff. I grew up on Fort Myers Beach. I've been a local since I was 10, so that's 19 years. I'm very familiar with the area. I'm very young, but I'm driven.
Are you married? Do you have kids?
I have a long-time boyfriend of almost 10 years. No children. My pets are my children. I have 2 dogs.
Well, I can appreciate that. My son and daughter-in-law are in exactly the same situation, and they both are very hard workers and can provide all of the time that the job's needed as a result thereof. Have you given any study to the size of Gateway versus that of Fort Myers Beach? in that how much larger the budgets and the number of homes and things are in Gateway versus Fort Myers Beach or vice versa?
So the town, the population fluctuates if it's, right now it's peak season, as you guys know, there's plenty of people. The staffing does not, but we still have to provide the same level of service. And size-wise, budget-wise, honestly, I think my budget's bigger at the town than it is here, between the projects and typical operations and grant management. Small, tight-knit community, I'm going to say needy. I'm throwing that out there. I'm used to a needy community, and responsiveness, and that's, you know, what we take pride in.
Most of the income from Fort Myers Beach come from ad valorem taxes or assessments, or how's it broken down?
Most of it's ad valorem, but we do have a pretty big parking fund.
Say again, have a what, please?
Parking problem.
Parking problem, which means lots of money because of
So
increased
parking
rates.
is a large revenue stream for the beach.
Yes.
Thank you,
Maybe
Mr. Chairman.
We could adopt some of those best practices. Flavia, I'll go to you next. Thank you, Bill.
So I just had one question regarding, during the interview, you stated that you do work well under pressure, and I guess given that how you get into the position that you are now, you didn't have much of a choice.
Yes.
How does your staff feel about working under pressure? How do you manage you being able to do it and your staff? Do they feel the same?
I take on most of the pressure, and I don't push that on. Now, if it's time sensitive pressure, yes, I emphasize that to my staff. The pressure stops at me. I'm the one who, quote unquote, makes the big bucks in our department. I'm the department head. I have to make those decisions and actions, whatever those are, to implement what comes from above. If it's from council or if it's from the town manager, we have to get that done.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's for now.
Okay, Ed.
Yeah, I've got to ask, where in Indiana?
Indianapolis, right outside Avon,
Avon.
Brownsburg, Plainfield.
Greenwood.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're hired.
Get that off the table. Good old, what was it, Mid-States Conference basketball or something? What you realize that we have a public works side, which is our parks, what roads we have, stormwater management. That's the big one. Lots of ponds, lots of wetlands, and a lot of storm sewers. On the other side, we have the enterprise, which I don't think I need to tell you, you've done it, been there, done that. The water sewer, I don't know, do you have reuse out on the beach?
No, we don't.
So all irrigation is what, individually wells? Or do they even have it? It's almost all built up. There's not much grass.
Yeah, there's, I mean, if there's irrigation, it goes into the sanitary and the sanitary is the county's. The town bills on behalf of the county for the sanitary.
Do you own the sanitary sewer system or?
No, we own
county?
we own the water system.
You own the water.
Water distribution system.
Where do you get your water from?
We purchase it from Lee County, just like you guys
purchase
do.
it, okay, same thing we do. Okay. I think I had another question with that. Capital reserve plan.
Yes.
One of the things that we're going to need to be doing is to develop a capital reserve plan for all of our utilities. A lot of our stuff is coming of age, and we just can't continue to throw money here, there, and everywhere. We need a plan of what kind of monies we're going to need to be doing that. So any experience you've had, or did the beach have a capital reserve plan for their utilities?
So the town manager that we currently have in 2017 came in and he implemented us to put in a CIP program. Majority of the CIP is my department's, and so I wrote the book on it, per se.
Great. The other one is that I don't know if you're aware, but we are absent our public works director.
Okay.
And so we're kind of waiting for this decision to be made so that the person that comes in has an integral part in selecting the person that you're going to be working with. It's going to essentially be your right-hand person relative to at least the public works side. Anybody you can bring with you?
It's a short list, but it's a list.
Okey doke, okey doke. That'll get me for a while.
Yeah, thanks. So first I just want to open up, give me an understand, or give me like a high level of what this district manager position kind of looks like to you. Like the responsibility. What do you think the role is?
What I'm doing now without the title and pay, honestly. I have my hand in a little bit of everything at the town of Fort Myers Beach. Not necessarily by choice, just kind of circumstance, because I have a lot of knowledge and experience and I'm willing to make decisions, whereas others may be hesitant to. And honestly, I feel right now the town manager heavily relies on me.
And that's who you report directly to?
That is my direct, yeah, I'm a direct report to him, so.
Yeah. And I think if you live in this area and you follow anything at all, there is a lot of parallel to, I think, Fort Myers Beach and us. Just when I would say there's a lot of projects going on.
Everywhere.
There's a lot of traffic, community involvement, participation, feedback. You've got a council, which is very similar to kind of our board. Give us an idea of what are your challenges in your current role?
Honestly, with these projects that I have ongoing, it's getting the drumming up and getting the public support. And we've overcome that hurdle, but it was a 3-year hurdle. And we're close. Well, actually, I'm under construction on one of these projects, but the other two are 90 to 100% design. And getting the community involvement and their support on expending this amount of funds on these projects and these improvements, it was a hard sell. But honestly, that is probably the hardest thing right now.
Yeah. And if you look at kind of this district manager position for us, and it's kind of funny, you said what I'm doing now without pay. Because I think public works is pretty much 90% of what we do here. And that's what I think the majority of the responsibility falls in. And there's some other things too that make up, maybe it's 80%. But I think things that are critical is being able to manage projects, manage staff to make sure we're on budget, we execute high quality. But it's also dealing with all the other things. It's working with Florida Water Management, other regulatory. So, which I would imagine that's a lot that you do today, and who those contacts are at the county, with the city, and so you have all those. How do you feel your relationship is with all the powers that be outside of, let's say, the Fort Myers Beach staff, and how often do you leverage those partnerships to get things done or for knowledge, information?
So things get lost in politics in the upper management, and I consider myself a doer, a hands-on person. So when the county, when Swift Mud, when any department within Lee County with other grant agencies, they come to me and they'll reach out to me as the first point of contact. And if I can't get them the answer, I'm going to get them to somebody who can get them the answer. And so I personally have great working relationships with all these different agencies. It can be difficult sitting in the top spot. I understand, because you have to weigh both, but that's something I pride myself on, is being a doer in my work show, what I can accomplish.
And I think you've kind of hit on this a couple of times, but what is your leadership approach? How do you get things done? How do you manage your people? Like, what is your philosophy?
I'm a straight shooter. I'm be as transparent as I can. I'll give you an example. I had a staff member a couple weeks ago, knew he was in the wrong, and when I called him out on it, he said his response, "I'll bring my pen," because he knew he was going to be written up. So I'm consistent, if anything.
Yeah. And working with the board, what we expect is, I think, from a district manager is to, not only interpret and follow our directive, but also, be a leader within the district. So give me an example of a time that maybe it's the town manager or whoever is giving you guidance that maybe that approach wasn't in line with maybe what you thought, or maybe you had other ideas, maybe solutions to. So how would you have that conversation? And I'm kind of teeing you up. This is a little loaded question because we want a district manager that can push back on us, because there's only a few of us that have really some subject matter expertise in some of the areas that we operate in today. So we need a counterbalance, I think.
So oftentimes I'll look to my current town manager has been in government for 50 plus years. I'll look at him and I said, tell me your end result. What is it you're trying to accomplish? I will get you there. And sometimes we've differed on our opinions, but for the most part, he has relied heavily on me to accomplish that. I call my staff out. I call him out as it is right now. And that's just kind of my personality and who I am. And that's with my engineers too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a PE. I don't claim to be a PE. We hire them, you know, for their expertise. But I bring the common sense and knowledge to a table that, okay, get out of your PE mind. Let's look at this logically. Let's make sense of this. And I've had to do that quite a few times.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you look at where we're at from a community, there's a lot that this board has done, let's say over the last 6 years, to do things differently than we have done in the past. There's a lot of catch up, a lot of maintenance improvement, you know, things that we're doing. And part of that too is really trying to change our, let's call it culture, here within our staff, what our image is with the residents. How do you drive, let's say, culture change or motivate your staff? And, you know, just, you know, I think it's more like the people leader component. So just what is your kind of philosophy on that piece?
Lead by example, truthfully. My staff know I'm working just as, if not harder than them that are doing physical labor in the field. Sometimes mental labor can be more exhausting than physical. But I like to lead by example. I like to rely on my team. You know, you're paying your staff, you're paying your assistant to do a job. And if they're, give them the opportunity to do the job. And I don't want it to seem like I take on all the work, because I really don't. I have my hand in a little bit of everything, but that's because I want oversight. And, you know, I think I said it in the previous interview. They call me Mother Hen at Town Hall, because today we had a St. Patrick's Day potluck. I coordinated it. So it's like, just, you know, if your employees are happy and they enjoy and they want to come to work, that's only going to cultivate a better working environment for everybody.
And then how would your staff describe you?
I don't know. I should ask them that. That's actually a really good question. I would say caring, like a mother. You know, I tend to treat them like they're my children, but even though I don't have children. But again, they know when I'm stern that I mean business. And again, probably, you know, consistent, I would say is what would describe me best.
And then if you were offered the position, what does that transition time look like?
I have a lot on my plate at Town Hall at Fort Myers Beach. Generally, I would ask 30 days, but I know the town manager well enough that he would ask for me to be like on and on call to just whatever transition that may be with whomever it may be.
So it would be a little more complex transition, you know, but
yes,
understood.
It's peak season too. And we're getting ready to go into budget. So
yeah. Just follow up questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. How well do you work with Lee County DOT?
I know a lot of those guys. I actually just left a meeting at Lee County EOC, and Rob Price was there. So
you're aware that we're going to have another infamous, iconic roundabout.
I've heard.
Going to be starting
I've
in the
heard.
next probably 90 days. Unless you can talk that guy behind you in the group, but either one of the guys in the group to assist. We don't have anybody really at this point in time who's going to be our coordinator and liaison and watching Lee County on this work. The last one we had, our district manager watched it, because whenever something went wrong, it wasn't on their side of the fence, it was on ours.
Of course.
And they tried to change order us to death. So you're going to be having some close relationships working with Lee County and their engineer, who obviously are never made a mistake. And it'll be a utility conflict, and they're going to come to us looking for 5- and 6-digit change orders.
Mhm.
So be ready for that. Then the other one is that one of the biggest things our district manager does for at least, I'm going to say 90 days of the year, is called our budget. You are immensely involved in the preparation of that budget. We got a strange budget in that we have the Pelican Preserve side,
I've looked at it.
and that you know about that then. So you know that it's not just a simple way of doing a budget. You have to divide this over here because they don't pay for this and we don't pay for that, and a lot of work.
I'm
a
used
lot
to
of work.
intricacies. I have the most departmental budgets within the town. I would easily say that I have a third, if not half of the budgets, and we do line item budgeting.
So do we.
So I know, I'm very familiar with putting together a budget.
Multi-line item budget.
Yes, yes.
So you're familiar with that and have done that procedure, because a lot of the stuff I've seen down in Florida, we didn't do it this way back in Indiana. You had a form and you filled out the form, take it or leave it, cities and towns, whatever, or county had associations, and they followed the rules. Down here, it's kind of however you want to put it together.
Yeah.
And we've got a fairly sophisticated accounting system on the enterprise fund, the utility fund, or the public works fund, and then all the other things that we have associated with the district. But budgeting is big, and you'll definitely
I will tell
have
you,
a big play in that.
last year we had our entire finance department had a full turnover. So I was far more in budget last year than I ever cared to be. I learned more than I probably detailed wise, but I'm very familiar with putting together budgets.
Well, congratulations on having a finance department.
Thanks.
Chelsea, how long has the town manager been in his position?
Since 2017.
Okay, so he's just about saying that you're there then.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
And how many direct reports does he have?
There's 5. He's weird. I mean, I say that when he's weird. There's 5 directors, but he has like probably 8 direct reports. Because again, our finance department had a full overhaul. So we don't have necessarily one finance director, but 2 people that are equal to.
Yeah.
So.
And how many direct reports do you have?
22.
22. Okay. I think you might have said that.
Well, I have 22 staff. I probably have 7 direct reports.
Okay, just what's that hierarchy look like? Do you have department heads,
Yeah,
managers?
yeah. Well, they're split by function. So like grounds, which is our Parks and Rec department, Parks and Rec maintenance, beach, 7 Mile Long Beach, and then maintenance, general maintenance, which is like street crew. And then actually we operate a mooring field. So.
And then you just go down from there.
Teams,
Yeah.
yep.
Awesome.
I have one more question. So regarding the stormwater, so you stated that you don't necessarily have lakes there. So would it be fair to say that you're not necessarily familiar with, the slopes and escarpments and things like that in restoration? Because that would be a big part of what we're looking forward in the near future.
So yes and no. I'm not like 100% comfortable, and I can tell you that I know all embankment issues. That doesn't mean I'm not willing to learn it. Our rec center does have like some small ponds that go out to the bay. We have had some issues over there, but it's not something that I'm not willing, I'll learn it. I'll pick it up.
We have a lot.
I heard.
A lot.
I heard. You have a lot of loans for those amendments too.
Have you had water quality issues over there on your stormwater system?
No, but we do. I mean, we went through the whole charade of water quality testing. We have gotten water quality grants, things like that.
Yeah. How much rigor do you go through, and how much responsibility do you have in, doing things like value engineering, or just, squeezing a dollar in your projects? What efforts do you have in order to save money or deliver early if possible?
So one of the big things I would say that I've learned is don't sweat the pennies. Look for the quarters and the dimes on things. Don't paper clips. Don't worry about that. Let's look at the big picture. And I'm a very big picture type of person, especially in today's market with the supply chain issues. We're literally we're at 60% design on this project. And it's like, okay, we know we can't get steel for over a year. We need to look at alternatives to this. And it's like, okay, let's look at this with common sense. Let's not buy the $10,000, whatever it is. What are the comparisons that we can get the same quality and whatever it is we're buying or doing or building.
And if you stayed with the beach, the next step for you would be what?
The town manager.
Town manager?
The
Okay,
town manager.
great. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, do you guys have a strategic plan? I didn't see one on your plan, on your, like a long-term plan.
It's in 5 heads.
It's,
Everybody has a
well,
vision.
well, I'd say that there's a yes and no. I think if you were to look at some of the departments, there is, a 3-5 year plan. The previous district manager kind of said that there's a plan, but I think it's in different pieces.
Okay.
I think it's something we've been pushing for quite some time, is a 3, 5, 10, 15 year plan. Especially now with all the things that we have that are high priorities that have a lot of dollar amounts. I mean, we made a significant decision last year to build a much larger CIP initiative to roll a lot of these things in because we needed a funding source parallel with the priorities that we have. So I think one of the priorities of a district manager coming in is building that strategic plan, 3, 5, 10, whatever we think is pertinent.
And you don't have to work with creating a new assessment methodology. We just finished that, and I don't think want to do it again. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the structure now is in place. What we need to do is to develop the plan, what Doug was talking about, that puts on paper some of the things that we've talked about, but it never materialized in a document.
Yeah.
Okay. And, what do you see for this position if it's me or if it's the next guy, with 30, 60, 90-day goals? Or, I mean, have you guys discussed that even? What accomplishments?
2 big things that are on our future. And that's why I was joking a while ago about DOT.
Roundabout.
That roundabout is in the middle of the community, is going to be a nightmare logistically. It's just going to be a mess. So that's an issue. And then the other one was the corner of the intersection of where the roundabout is, as I understand it, we're probably 90 to 120 days away from a 200 unit apartment complex being built right next to it.
Okay.
So those 2 things are going to be a challenge.
Sure,
There,
the impacts to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to understand too that this position's been vacant for 5 months.
Okay.
6 months.
And we've been fortunate enough, 6 months, we've been fortunate to have staff and consultants that have helped us, get through that. And I think we've been in a good position from a district perspective. But there's a lot of things in our budget and on our priority list that need to be accomplished this year. I mean, we've got a roundabout coming, we've got lake bank restoration projects, but then we have we got to keep the lights on. And then on top of that, if you look out past 60, 90 days, there's a laundry list of high priority items that the district needs to address.
Budget's starting again.
And then budgets are starting again. So, I mean, there's plenty of work to be done. Some of that is time sensitive when it comes to whether it's like lake banks, dry season, wet season, funding, all that stuff. So there's plenty of work, I'm sure, just like there is on Fort Myers Beach. But we also need to continue to build a best in class CDD. And that's how we do things, who we have doing them, how we provide services to our residents. And so there's a lot of opportunities for improvement. I think we've made great strides in that, but we're still not where we need to be in order to be what I consider best in class.
Gotcha.
Well, when you look outside, you see all the equipment sitting around. We've got a space issue, not only for the people in here that are stuck on skyhooks. We got a building that we put out here, and every time we turn around, it seems like it is an attraction for mold. So we have some issues on that are going to have to be addressed too.
And I think, resourcing is really difficult, not only in this market, but just, holistically right now. So I think our staff has really done a good job of bringing people in that they can up coach, they can cross train. And I think that's a major piece of the district manager is helping drive that. There's good leaders in the different units, but we have to do more with less, and we have to grow our teams and our staff. And most importantly, it has to be a place where people want to come to work every day.
Absolutely.
So I think that's another side area that where focus needs to be on.
Well, I'll tell you, our town hall used to be a bank, and we went through a major $1 million renovation to that town hall building. And so I've been through that process, and I've had countless, projects, sidewalk projects, These redevelopment projects are really I mean, we just did all new downtown sidewalks in our main downtown corridor. Times Square is the biggest one right now that it's like, impacts to businesses and immediate TPI, Margaritaville, I'm sorry, Margaritaville, every day it's something else, trying to work with them. And again, the flow of just life is going on. So I can appreciate patience with that.
Yeah, if you could bring an annex restaurant over here, we could use that too.
Well, this environment, I think there's some parallels, but it's going to be significantly different than what you're used to on the beach.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is different. And I would imagine the opportunity you had said brings you over here, but I mean, are you comfortable with going from the beach to?
I'm going to be fast paced. It doesn't matter where I'm at.
Okay.
That's how I operate. And it's funny because my staff are like, okay, can we slow down, like one thing at a time? And I'm like, I'm like, this is how my brain works. I'm jumping from one thing to another because I've got so many things on my mind and things that I want to do. But I think hearing from you guys, how much you have going on and how much you want to have going on in the near future. I think it's something that I'd be up to the task. It'd be a change of pace, but a nice change of pace. Yeah. And I'm familiar with a lot of, from what I understand, you guys use Tetra Tech for a lot of your stuff. I saw a master planning session with Holantes, all of these local firms I've dealt with in some form or fashion. So, and again, having those relationships already built would be a pretty easy transition.
I think the last question is, what is your position on oak trees? I'm just kidding, don't answer that. Just kidding.
I do have one more question. Just we started talking about this. So you've been there since 2017. So from the seven people that report directly to you, what percentage of your time do you allocate to develop those staff? To get ready to the next, like as a succession plan. Like how, if you were to get to this position, how lost would they be without you?
That's a difficult question because I tend to take on far more than probably my role should. The transition for the biggest transition issue would be the projects because those are like my babies. So honestly, my town manager knows more about the projects than my assistant does. But I have an assistant. It's just him and myself, and as office personnel for my entire department. So it's processing purchase orders, anything administratively. It's just the two of us. So I am hands-on, knee-deep in something. But I actually trained my assistant, and then the contracts manager who used to be my assistant. We're all replaceable. God forbid something happened to myself, anybody here. Our position would be filled, and I try to teach my staff and train my staff that God forbid something happened to me, somebody could easily step into my role. Now the projects would be difficult, but the day-to-day operations, I have somebody in mind over there that I could recommend to transition into, and I would do the same thing here.
That's it.
I have one question.
Yes, go right ahead.
Audit, your guys' audit, are you guys wrapping that up for last year?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because I didn't see last year's test.
Yeah, they're in the information gathering stage right now.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to know where you guys were at.
Anything else?
No.
Well, thanks for coming today. We really
Thank you
appreciate it.
guys so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
So you don't have to go back to the beach today, right?
No, absolutely not.
Get there about 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we move forward, we can do two things. We can stay on this topic and have some discussion and then get back to the regular meeting while everything's fresh in our mind, or we can go through the regular meeting and then circle back. Okay.
I just should stay on subject.
I would too. Okay. So why don't we go around and get some feedback? And what I would expect is you could talk about what you thought of both candidates, if you have a choice. So I think it would be my idea, or my intent is, if out of these two candidates, if we felt pretty strongly about one, that we could move forward at least to the next step today, if everyone agrees. If not, we can delay. But so Bob, let me start with you.
I like both candidates. today's interview didn't change my positioning. And in that sense, I had Mr. Whitfield as a number one and Chelsea as number two. I didn't see or learn anything today that would change that. I think Mr. Whitfield is even more mature and experienced candidate. And I think he brings more to it. Chelsea, on the other hand, would certainly be able to grow into the job, and she comes glowingly recommended from some feedback that I've got. So,
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Mike number one, Chelsea number two.
And I can't remember, we've got compensation on both these
They're
individuals?
both aware of the compensation, the current, what you advertise.
Okay. All right. Bill, let me go to you and get your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have two quality candidates, three if you include Laura. But we need to be very careful that we're not out walking on too thin ice, even in Florida. I'm trying to think of a way that we can proceed and get the candidate or candidates that we want without losing anybody. And as I think it was Bob said, Mr. Whitfield is my number one, but I have been and was very impressed with Mr. O'Reilly. And if I had my druthers, I'd like to hire Mr. Whitfield as the district manager, and Mr. O'Reilly is the, what's the other one? The
Public Works.
say again, please.
Public Works, is that what?
Yeah.
Backfill our utility guy.
However, I don't know if that's a possibility or not. And I think that we're going to need the chairman or his designee to talk to these people individually and in confidence to find out exactly where they are. If we could keep Laura and get Mr. Whitfield and Mr. O'Reilly both, I think it would be gangbusters. But operating remotely as I am these days, I don't know how to make that happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Flavia, I'll go to your end.
Actually, I'll pass to Ed.
Okay, Ed, you can go next.
Yeah, I'm leading a little bit different. I'm looking at Chelsea as young and energetic. And the last thing I want to do is in 5 years, 6 years, have to do this again.
Speak up a little bit, please, Ed.
Yeah, Bill, hold on.
No, you had it.
Right. Yeah, I want somebody young and energetic on this. She has certainly the background for essentially everything that we do. Maybe a little bit short on the stormwater management side, but I think that can be handled by the getting a stronger person in public works. The last question, I don't know, Bill, maybe you even asked it to Mr. Whitfield, was how long are you going to be here? And he danced around that quite a bit. That concerned me. I don't know what his age is, but like I say, I don't want to do this again in 5 years. Delaying and waiting, I am afraid we're going to lose one or both of these candidates and we're going to be up the creek without a paddle.
You are absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. We've got to move.
So we need to move. And my deal is I'm just a little bit the opposite. I would take and go with Chelsea as the district manager and offer the assistant district manager's position, or I'm sorry, the public works manager's position to Mr. Whitfield, because he certainly has the background to fill that slot. Anyway, that's my thought.
Flavia?
I will have to agree with Ed on this one. I would probably do Chelsea. My two main concerns with her would be the stormwater and also delegating versus dictating the work and how much she holds in everything else. and what if she would leave us? So we would be in the same position if she's not coaching and developing the staff and getting them to the next, and she's just keeping all that knowledge to herself, then we'll be in no different position if somebody else retires.
Mhm.
So that's my only, my two concerns with her.
So my position on this, I think both candidates are qualified. What my position is availability and managing the risk. I think if you've got a candidate that's here locally, that has contacts within all the people that we normally deal with, there's a lot of parallels there. I know, because this is really part of my business, there's a lot of risk right now in relocation. Housing markets are about as high as they've ever been. So even expecting someone to relocate from, I can't remember where it was,
Oregon.
from Oregon. So you're going across country here. To me, I think 30 days is probably a stretch. And it's going to be closer to 60, 90 days before I think that happens. There's a high cost in that, and moving from Oregon to here. Like I said, I think there's a high risk on that. So my choice, and I like Chelsea's enthusiasm, and I kind of agree with Ed. I think that could be someone that could be in this role for a long time. So, I mean, my priority, I would stack rank these very close, but I think we could probably not only get Chelsea in here sooner, I think we could probably get it maybe at a more competitive rate. But I would ask Laura, from your perspective, based on what you've seen, is there any recommendation? Because you're also an individual that wants to get things done, pull stuff in. So you've got two very strong individuals that have some very similar characteristics. When you look at both candidates, what kind of input would you provide?
For me, I thought they were both strong candidates. My concern is this with Chelsea. She's very driven. She reminds me of me when I was younger. So she's got a lot of motivation. I do have concerns with what Flavia said, and I am sometimes guilty of it myself, taking on too much and not delegating, and then I'd be afraid that we would be left. But I'm not saying that that's not a behavior that can't be. I mean, it's not saying that that's what she would do, especially because we have a pretty strong staff here.
Right.
And I think that
And I think that might be the thing too, is we have the staff to support it.
Luxury of there.
Okay.
Right.
Any issues with either candidate as far as working, because you'll be working hand in hand close?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No.
All right.
In an ideal world, if we could get Mike for 5 years, 6 years, that would be great. If we could stay that long, who knows how? Yeah. And in the same token, if we could afford to hire both and have her.
I don't believe that we're going to be able to get based on kind of what I heard, what I see. I don't think we would get Chelsea over for anything other than the district manager.
Say again, please. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Bill. I don't think Chelsea would come over for anything other than the district manager, because it wouldn't be a lateral, it would be less than a lateral when you look at span of control. So I think it would either have to be that position. Now, Michael, I mean, could be an opportunity.
But given the nature of the job and how much we need for, ponds and the stormwater systems and all that, his experiences, that's his niche. He's right on with that.
That's why I'd make him public works.
Well, but we're back to one or the other. And the maturity, yes, season maturity. We have a young staff anyway, and it would be helpful for them to mature. I'm less concerned about how long he'd stay to work. First of all, I think it's illegal to even ask, but
it is.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Chairman,
we all know we're all recently retired. Well, not all of us, unfortunately.
Some of us still work.
When you're doing what you like, it ain't work. So
Mr. Chairman, I want to warn you, after seeing what Lee County is paying their new school superintendent, $255,000, we may be way off the mark in what we're offering. So we need to be cognizant of what's going on in salaries and availability of quality people, and in the CPI. And if we decide we want to go with one of these First, I suggest that we get right on it and make an offer and try and negotiate at least a verbal contract right away.
Hey.
Do we, one more quick question.
Yeah.
Do we know if he will be willing to take because I know Chelsea may not, but he was really strong about wanting to move to Florida.
Well, I think we broached that subject, but I don't know if we want to ask that question before. I mean, typically that's not what you do. Is, hey, if we don't offer you this, would you entertain this position?
Well, that's why you want the person that we hire would be more involved in the.
Because we don't know. I'm just going back to Chelsea. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine she would have contacts in the local area. Hey, Cal, what is the range that we have listed? Was that both candidates said they were?
No, it's 125 what was listed as the current salary, which is.
I know it had a minimum and then
Normally there's a range.
Yeah, because that's how you listed it. Like it says minimum salary and then I think it was
Okay,
up to 125.
that's what was
the range?
It started at
advertised.
125.
125 to, you know what the upper was?
I don't think we put a range.
Yeah, I do know that Bodnar left or dropped out because he had two offers higher than, and because he called me today and he asked if there was some movement in that. And I said, yeah, I think there is.
Higher than what?
Higher than the
125?
In the range we had, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 125 that's the range. I think it was
Right.
125 to 150 or one.
Yeah, I
think we just
did
said starting
talk
at.
to both candidates outside of the interview to ask them, they're public works directors, would they have an interest in coming to work as a public works director? And it depends on the compensation, the responsibilities, but they left the door open. Chelsea was a little less willing, but the other gentleman was open to that.
That's my concern, that we make this decision quick. We can't lose any more candidates. It's just that.
So I'm not sure
Do you
you're
know where?
better than the two you
I'm sorry.
got. I'm not sure you're gonna get better than the two that you've got
no, I agree.
today.
We've gone this long. I think we're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Did they share, other than you asking the question, are you comfortable with the range? Did you happen to ask what their expectation was?
No.
Okay.
I didn't feel that was my role.
But Michael's educational background is stronger. His experience is definitely stronger, and he's more suited to our spot.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot.
Yeah,
I don't
both
disagree with
had a
you,
master's.
and I would think if Michael was in town, that's probably the direction I would go.
See, that's
but-
what I don't want to lose him because he's not in town, because I think he'd be the stronger candidate for our
Yeah.
position. Is there going to be more problems with that one? Maybe, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah. Now, one thing about Michael, they both have masters. Michael does not have a PE. Now, I don't know if I didn't see that as anything negative, but the comment you just made, Bob, I thought that might.
Well, he's got the full MBA and he's got the.
And she
you know,
did too.
engineering
She had
degree.
an MBA.
No, hers is in public works.
She's
The
master
master's
of
in
No,
public
she has
administration.
or an
Public
MPA.
There's a bit of a difference there. To be the
Depends on who you
MBA
ask.
is stronger.
I got an MPA.
So I'll just say this again.
It's the
I
best.
think if we're looking to pull the trigger, I have concerns with Michael only because his distance, and I think it's going to be probably a minimum $20,000 to relocate from Oregon, a minimum.
At least.
At least. And I think I think it puts risk, and I would hate to
To
go,
Oregon.
I mean, again, I don't want to
that's what
discount
you
him based on assumptions, but I would hate to get through this and in 30 days, there's a change of heart, or he can't find a house, or, something like
Well,
that happens.
I would certainly hate that.
Yeah.
I really would.
That's
But I
what
don't
I'm
want to
afraid.
exclude him for that, because really when you're moving, whether you move 2 miles, 20 miles, if you're moving, you're moving. I've relocated.
Well, there's a
9
big
times.
difference between, I think, 2
Well,
or 3
I've moved
miles.
9 times and I've moved all over the country and out of the country.
Cross country.
If you want the job, you'll make it happen. But,
Yeah, and I'm afraid that
I mean,
there
it
might
wouldn't
be
have applied if this was a
another
problem.
company that's,
See, that's why I've just got a little bit the opposite. I'm thinking that if we get her and he really wants to come to Florida, this public works position would be an easy easy fallback. And if he's planning on.
And that's low risk too on that
If the
position. If
position
that falls
is-
through, then, you know.
Ed, I don't disagree with you. If you're looking at the holistic approach that you want both. But if you're just gonna fill the top spot, in my own humble opinion, you go with the best candidate. And I really think he's got a leg up on her as far as credentials and abilities. I'd love to have them both. I would love to have them both. But we got to look at it one piece of the pie at a time. I think we're settling if we think we're Chelsea over the other candidate. That's just my own humble opinion. So,
What is the pay for the public work position?
What is what?
The pay rate?
Public
Just,
Works?
yeah, just to give me an idea of.
I thought it was
how-
95.
No, 95 is supposed to be what I'm getting paid, but I'm not. But,
we'll give you an attaboy.
yeah, I get a lot of those. I got.
Well, and I think just based on, you know,
I'm
staff's
looking,
input,
at-
and
I'm
I
looking
even,
up to see what we put in the budget for that role for this year.
well, and I think what that position is it's not as heavy in that public works as what we had talked about. It's more project management, focus on, you know, ponds, you know, that type of backgrounds. I think that role was probably more suited for almost, I'd call it a manager as opposed to, well, the other way around, supervisor as opposed to a manager. I think what we need is probably even a notch down.
In the interview process, we stressed a lot about the ponds and all, and yet the candidate we seem to be leaning to doesn't have that experience, and yet we're kind of ignoring it. Well,
That's why I'm relying on the Public Works person to be that person, because the
I
Public Works
agree.
person,
but you may or may
we
not
don't
get
have
that
any
person.
roads,
You
we
may or
don't
may
have
not get
any park, all the other things that fall under Public Works, we haven't got. The only thing we got under Public Works, and it's the major ticket item, is ponds and wetlands and stormwater.
The public works manager position was budgeted at 78 for this fiscal year.
And we have allocated the money that we didn't use because we didn't have staff to pay Premier, right?
Right.
All of it? Most of
No,
it?
not yet.
They're trying to get it all.
Yeah, they're trying. They're working at it. They made a pretty good dent in it. But that's coming off a different budget line.
Well, I don't know where we go from here, Doug. I mean,
Well, I would make the motion that we retain Chelsea for the district management position.
Say again, please.
I'd make the motion that we retain and make an offer to Chelsea, the district management position.
What you may want to do is that you, motion would be to rank Chelsea number one and authorize.
Who's talking? Who's talking?
I'm sorry, Mr. Guy, it's Tony Pierce. I would suggest that the motion be, if you be so inclined, Mr. Tinko, too, that the board ranks Chelsea O'Reilly number one for the district manager position, authorize the chairman to negotiate an employment contract for district management
Employment
service.
agreement.
Employment agreement with Chelsea O'Reilly. And whether or not you want to put the compensation cap in there now, wait
I think
until
we
the
come back to it.
negotiations. And then come back at the next board meeting, unless you want to have an intervening special board meeting.
Do we not have a form of agreement for this position that
Well,
we wouldn't be able to
look,
use?
I would just caveat and say that give the chairman maybe the authorization to negotiate or to start the employment agreement within the range that is approved.
Yes.
I think that's exactly the wrong way to go. I think we ought to tell the chairman to get to the phone right now and offer Miss O'Reilly, Chelsea, the position and see if she'll take it at the schedule that we've already adopted, and if not, at what level. And get our feet on firmly on the ground on this thing.
I think that's what,
Without all of these votes and next board meeting and all of that BS, we're going to end up losing her. I won't buy that.
yeah,
We agree, Bill.
Yeah, I think that's what, it may not have come across that way, but I think that's what Ed was trying to say is to authorize the chairman to negotiate that, which means we can execute that immediately.
Make the offer.
Yeah.
Make the offer.
If you may get a counter, and then you're going to have to.
Want to make the amount?
I think that's what Mr. Guy is also indicating.
I'd make the offer at what we said, 125. You go in with anything else and all of a sudden it just gets ugly.
So it's 120, you're saying 120, 125. And what's our, I can't remember with Chris, do we have any bonus or anything attached to that?
Nope. He had an automatic 4% raise every year according to the contract you
Well, I'm
had with
not worried
him.
about that.
And there was a certain amount, I can't recall also a certain amount of, there was a certain amount of PTO time that was allocated, I think.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
mean,
same as
well,
the rest of the
yeah,
managers, so
And
yeah.
and she going to, she or he, either one that you would go with, you make the offer to them. It's going to be conditioned upon we coming up within the follow-up paperwork. We
Yeah.
know that.
We just need.
But the issue is
yeah, we
right
need to-
now, we need to sink the hook.
Kel, do you have the notice that went out as to the salary range? Someone have that here?
I just put it up. I just looked and it does not. It just says minimum salary 125.
Minimum.
And that, yeah, that Gary sent out.
I just don't,
I'll pull it back.
I hate negotiating with people and talking to them and having all these discussions, then come back and try to do a zinger by saying, can we start at 100? That just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
No, I mean, I think you're
We
right. I
put the number out, we ought to match that
Put the
number.
And we
number out
budgeted
you
for
match.
125 for
Yeah,
that.
no, I
role,
think
that
we
was
have,
before Chris
honestly, I think we have
left,
to come in at
so.
125 or 130 in today's market. I think if the range is 125, you know, because someone coming from Fort Myers Beach, I don't know what her current comp is, but I'd say we'd have to come in at 125, 130.
I think the chairman ought to get to the phone right now and make an offer and get back to us in this meeting before we adjourn and tell us what she said.
So we have a
Yes,
motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
I like Bill's idea.
Yeah.
Go outside and make a
I'll do it.
phone
Well, I
call.
like Bill's idea, I just don't like the candidate.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
All right.
Okay. All right, Ed, if you will take over in the meeting. You guys can go ahead and start running through the other items. I will get on the phone.
Hope she's got a cell phone in her car. You got a cell phone number?
Yeah, it's on her.
Do you need it?
You wanna just-
Okay, no, do we need to,
We can pick up right on action items.
okay, let's go back. Do we need to stop that section and go on or
No,
just continue since it was all part of the
Just
meeting?
continue.
We just rearranged the agenda order.
Okay, well then
So
let's
where do we
go.
leave off?
4A,
4A.
Infomark agreement.
Laura, 4A, we've got a copy of an agreement from Infomark, about 8 pages of paperwork. Is this, for all practical purposes, the same as we had?
it's the same
Last year?
services that we have this year. I think there's a little less on Maryland's plate because Georgia took over doing the agenda items and all that this year, but we are going to have Maryland continue to do the minutes. So that's why if you look at what's on the screen, that's why the records and transcription part of it is a little less. But overall, it's the standard 3% increase from what we were paying them for last year.
Were there any services that were omitted or added, deleted or whatever that duties and responsibilities have been changed?
Other than the stuff for Maryland, no.
That's it.
Do they typically get 3% a year? Is
Yes.
that what we've been about?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions on the agreement? Laura and I have had a discussion in the past that I would at some time like to wean ourselves from this deal. I don't know that this is.
Stephen and I had that discussion when we were talking about the contract. So
Right.
that's why we started making some small changes.
Wean ourselves from what?
Wean ourselves from this and basically doing it in-house.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know that we're ready to take that step just
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, we at least another year
And-
before we'll be
but
ready.
with all the
Okay.
other things
Yeah.
we've got on the
I
plate,
agree with
like,
you.
I think we need to just do
Yeah.
that.
To set a goal to get there, yeah, I absolutely agree.
So anybody have any, Bill, did you have any questions about the Ninth Amendment to the management agreement with Infomark?
No, it looks fine.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept.
And I'll second.
motion made and seconded to accept the Ninth Amendment to the district management services. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0.
Yeah, you
Alright.
do good work.
We
We're
already,
moving on, Bill.
we already did B and C, so we can skip to D.
We did
B and C
B
already.
and C,
Yes,
okay. D,
D.
boardwalk
I'm trying to get
access.
to come up.
Laura's putting it up.
All right, Tony, I think, oh, Tony laughed.
We need Tony for this one.
Yeah, we,
back. come
Yeah,
back.
well, let's go back. Let's go ahead and do,
We'd have to go to Tim. F.
oh, that one needs, Tim is not here. He is under the weather and could not make the meeting. He and I talked about this and he asked if we could table it to the next meeting because
So-
I
so
am
that
not
request-
prepared to have that discussion.
That request that Tim had needs to be
Table to the 7th.
tabled to the 7th.
Yes. And I can give a little insight on E. There's, I got a call from Pancash on, what day is today? I think it was Tuesday, regarding this. And they have asked us to decrease the amount of the loan that we asked for because the bids came in considerably less, like $2 million less than what they approved us for in funding. I had some concerns with that because.
Wait a minute, wait. The bids came in less than what we estimated that we needed.
Correct. We asked for
Probably trying
5
to
and
make
it
the money
came
go
in
further.
5.7 and we came in the bids and with the bids, the Tetra Tech contingency, everything 3.7 million. So we were 2 million under what we had originally thought we were going to need to do these ponds.
So then they're trying to use their money to go further to other communities.
Correct. And
Okay.
so I talked to him about that and my concern was that if we waited until the meeting in April that the rate would change on the loan because we're currently at 0% because I was told that the rates would change at the end of March. And he checked with some people, called me back. He said, as long as we have the new agreement in hand, but we, the CDD, have the agreement in hand by the 31st, we will still have the 0%. We can wait until the April 7th meeting to sign it.
Oh.
I did ask about the, if we need more money, and they said that absolutely we would just do a change order request the same as the last time. If for some reason there was a huge
Unforeseen.
surprise, that we can request additional funds.
Predicated.
We don't need to wait.
So this is predicated on the deal that we're going to give them back the 2 million.
Yeah, the revised loan agreement would be for 3.7 instead of 5.7, since that was what the
Yeah, I don't know
bids
why we
with
need to
everything
defer it.
came up.
If we need more, we
No,
can-
no,
And we
no,
can
but
ask
the thing
for it
is,
later
I
on.
don't have the new agreement for you to sign
Well,
today.
But,
So-
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I stepped out for a minute, but if all these other terms, have you sent this document to DEP, correct? With the red
She's going
line?
to talk about Pancake.
Yes, they're gonna be sending us a new loan agreement.
But they approved the
Yes.
redlining and that.
Yes.
Okay, so.
So the only thing that's gonna change on the new loan agreement is the dollar amount.
Okay,
So-
so the key part is that these terms and recognizing the new, also this resolution need to be adopted. So I guess
You're
the
muted.
board could authorize the chairman to execute the agreement once it comes in.
Comes in.
And that's when it comes in, he just does it. We don't have to wait.
I just need to let him know
As
to
long
sign
as
it.
the edits that were made in with the red line
Okay.
version that you all have with the revisions to the number. So they
Okay.
can authorize the chair to sign that.
Somebody want to make
I'll
the
make that
motion?
motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other
Oh,
session?
and that unanimously, Mr. Guy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bill, any question you had on that, making the motion to approve this loan resolution?
No questions. Ready for the vote.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And also then the second, that's adopting resolution, what's the resolution number, 2022?
Four on
10.
that.
Okay,
four.
yep, got it.
Whatever the resolution number is the resolution is to amend the prior resolution because of the parties. And the second action would be to approve the chairman to execute a loan agreement with the edits in the document with the revised numbers that we get from DEP.
So in other words, the revised agreement with the changes,
Correct, revised dollar amount with the red line.
Correct.
change.
authorizing the chairman to sign it.
Great, I just want to make sure that the
Yes,
first action was to adopt the resolution amending resolution 2022-6. Is that correct? That was the first action?
yes,
And that was passed 4-0?
correct.
Yes.
Okay, and the second action would be authorize the chairman to execute the revised construction loan agreement for SW 3604A0
Yes.
with the edits and numbers. Bob,
Bob, hold on a
for
second.
You gotta be, and all in favor?
All
That's
in
the motion,
favor on
right?
this last deal? Aye.
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry
4-0.
about that. It just,
Come help you out.
I'm sorry. No, thank you. I'm glad you saw.
So this deal on the change on the money just came up recently?
He called me Tuesday. Yeah,
They're probably scrambling for projects.
yeah, that gives them the ability to spend that $2 million or give that $2 million to another,
Yeah.
someone else to do some work.
That's commonplace.
So I was just concerned about the rate. I wanted to make sure that we were able to
It
keep the
was-
0%.
I thought that the interest rate went up 25 basis points yesterday.
I thought so too.
It's
we were
any
about to get on
agreements,
this.
well, it's any agreements that they send out starting on April 1st. So since this one's already in the works, that's why we're fine.
Yeah, this was
I-
locked
I-
into
Zero.
March 31st for
Yes.
execution. Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay,
Thank you. Sorry.
we wanted to go back to something
Well, we need
for Tony.
the phone number,
D,
the boardwalk.
boardwalk access.
Let's
They
wait
wanted
for-
you
I
here
think we
for
have Phil
this.
Measy and Mr. Gephardt. I think we need for that. But I think Phil wants to have a discussion. I think that's primarily it. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Laura?
Yeah, Phil.
Yes.
Phil Measy, Pelican Preserve, representing PPAC. I think that the proposed announcement that we gave you explains the situation. We've determined that I think we have very little choice, that at this point, in order to be consistent with the direction of the South Florida Water Management District, we have to limit access to the boardwalk to pedestrians, broadly
What were
speaking.
they wanting that, other than pedestrian?
Well,
This is one of the damnedest things I've ever heard. We just spent $1 million on it and now you're going to restrict it to all of the people who have infirmaries and have to use the boardwalk in a golf cart. I'll never vote for this.
well, the problem is, Bill, that right now we're not, we are not within the, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is the permit condition.
To hell with that. Just keep doing what we've been doing for 20 years. And if somebody other than this one person, a perennial troublemaker, doesn't like it, he can take us to court or whatever. But we've got thousands of residents who use that boardwalk, and I'll be damned if we're got it
Well,
restricted.
Following up on that, is this a permit issue or a permit condition?
No, it was a condition.
It is.
When
It is
yeah,
a permit
it's a
condition.
Wait, a minute, let me finish, please. We didn't modify the permit when we changed the boardwalk. So this condition has always existed, but for 20 years, it's never been enforced.
That's it.
Unfortunately, a document came out of the district office to an individual under a freedom of information request in which it said, and I'll paraphrase, for 20 years, Pelican Reserve has been in violation. Now that email was retracted and called back, but he got it. And that's what he's hanging his hat on, this one individual that's complaining.
If we ignore it and don't do it, what act can South Florida Water Management District take?
The South Florida Water Management District could issue a notice of noncompliance and request that we come into compliance with the permit and give us a time frame to do so. And if we don't come into compliance within the time frame indicated, they can then turn it over to enforcement.
Could we amend the permanent criteria?
That's the question.
Well,
One of the discussions we've had among staff and otherwise in Phil is that this permit was issued over more than 20 years ago. I think it's one of the original permits in 03, 04, 05 timeframe. And whatever the rationale was for at the time may have changed. I don't know. I wasn't involved in
So
those
for
discussions.
20 years, this dog slept.
yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
And so the question then becomes, I think it may be appropriate then, I think that's what PPAC and the community wants. At least one aspect of, aside from the other issue about does the district does this district not install the bollard and see what happens? But regardless, I think there's a sentiment to authorize task authorization for Tetra Tech and district staff to meet with South Florida Water Management District to pursue a permit modification to remove that condition or lessen that condition because, I think part of the rationale may have been prevent trash and all this noise and everything in the boardwalk. I mean,
That's
that's if I recall.
That's
It's
correct.
because
It's-
it runs through a conservation area and they were concerned about contaminating the conservation area
Right,
as well.
and again, it may have been in the era of gasoline cars. I don't know.
Phil,
Think
is
about
this-
the fact when it was
But-
built.
What's the local residents want on this?
Well, I think that's hard to tell, Ed, because there are some people, despite what Bill Guy is saying, there's some people who be very happy if we restrict it to just pedestrians.
So we have people on both sides.
We have people on both, we have people on both sides of the issue. Because it makes it a lot more comfortable to walk in there if you don't have, so we have issues other than just the permit. We have a potential safety issue because of the narrowness of the walks,
Is it smaller than it was before?
slightly smaller.
I believe that one entrance is 8 feet wide, the other entrance.
Well,
is
no, but
11
in the
feet
middle of
wide.
the boardwalk, as Phil's alluded to, it's about 6 to 8 inches at points,
At
a little
point,
narrow.
But
narrow.
it's about 8 feet wide, is that
But-
it?
Yeah, I never measured it.
Yeah.
I'd say about that, yeah.
Yes.
We're in a
But
bad position.
Overwhelmingly, well, I think my nickel's worth is we probably should come into compliance, but simultaneously, go after relief. Because we've demonstrated 20 years, no one's ever been hurt, to my knowledge.
No.
But you got people with bicycles, you got people pushing walkers, you've got Segway scooters going through there, skateboards, I mean, not our residents, but
Do we have a weight limit issue on this?
No,
No,
that's
we
not-
don't.
that's not-
However, it also has to be mentioned that riding golf carts on that thing will make the life of the boardwalk a lot shorter because they really beat it up. And we have to do a lot of maintenance in there because the golf carts really beat it
Well,
up.
the last one made it 20 years, right?
Yeah, all right. That's
And
correct.
everybody that bought a home in there was taken by the sales force on the back of a 3-seater golf cart and ridden through there.
That's
It's
right.
part of the sales.
It was done by WCI for sales purposes. And that's the reason they just completely disregarded it. Their salespeople would take people in there.
Sort of like Bob is, I hate, man, just going in, charging up San Juan Hill and no bullets in the gun with South Florida. That doesn't seem to me make sense. I'd
No,
just
but I
go the other
think
route.
a
man,
case,
for the
a
weight.
strong case could be made, comply. First we comply, but a strong case can and should be made to get a waiver on
To get away with.
Yes.
so that we can
And-
continue the way.
Would that be
That's a
an
modification.
acceptable,
Well, yes. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the announcement that we crafted, we mentioned the fact that our intent is to have staff we didn't say immediately, but go and get modification to the permit so that we can allow a broader level of access. Now, that does not necessarily mean that we'll allow golf carts on there, but it could have other access modifications that would make it, something.
Yeah,
that
we don't know
more
where it
people-
would go.
That's
until-
right,
until we
exactly.
try. But we're going to try.
What about wheelchairs?
Well,
Wheelchair-
We're
Wheelchairs
going to
are
try.
allowed.
Well, and one of the questions was asked of Steve Agapi as to ADA mobility issues, because it's not just wheelchairs, it's other mobility devices that people who have difficulty walking and have mobility issues will need to utilize.
Yeah.
And Stephen came back with an email with regards to the dimensions. I can read that to you if you want, but the,
Short version.
Yes
no,
or
the
no?
short version. The drawings provided show a 6.63 inch bollard placed centered on the 8-foot and 11-foot entrances exits. This would leave more than the required 36-inch minimum for wheelchair access. I've not taken a field measurement to confirm this, but from the plans, it appears the bollards are wheelchair access. And he was going to have an inspector check those when he was at Pelican.
They
And he
did.
took measurements and he said both entrances, now he said 32 inches, both entrances have clear spaces greater than the minimum 32 inches. And he has a bunch of photographs and measurements to show that. 39 at 1.35 and a whole bunch of them.
So you'd have difficulty with the golf cart, 36 inches then.
The golf cart you couldn't get
You
through.
couldn't get through.
That's what the bollards were made to keep the golf
That's why we
carts
did
out.
a gateway street.
Specifically, the other thing is bicycles. Bicycles are also a problem. Now, the bollards will not prevent the
That ain't gonna
bicycle.
stop them.
They won't,
Right
it
through.
will not stop the bicyclists. But they are, from a safety point of view, they're probably even worse than the golf carts.
Especially the ones that have motors now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right,
A lot
yeah.
of bikes in our community that have motors,
Yeah.
So
2 and
who's-
3 wheel.
So who's the sacrificial lamb that's going to go before South Florida Water Management District on this deal?
So what we'd suggest, and what Laura's
Yeah.
thinking or Phil's, is that we authorize Tetra Tech to work with the staff to set up an application meeting or pre-application with South Florida to come up with a proposal to modify the permit. And I think, again, before we do that, they'll go back and look at the rationale in the staff reports from South Florida as to why they wanted to limit it. if the issue is environmental degradation and it was concerned about contamination, it may have been because they may have been electric golf carts at the time, as opposed to, gasoline golf carts as opposed to electric golf carts. And if there's a concern about trash and all that, well, heck, people throw trash when they walk. So, I mean, that's not an
Yeah,
incentive.
that has not been an issue, trash.
No, and I look, essentially, I also look at boardwalks that I know exist around this area. I was mentioning it, I think, to Phil, Pelican Bay, Clam Bay. I don't know if you've ever been to Clam Bay Park. The Clam Pass Boardwalk is about 2/3 of a mile. It goes through a mangrove forest. And there are 6 to 8 person golf cart trams going back and forth all day from the Naples Grand Hotel. Okay, and so you have a gazillion visitors going, now, set aside from the issue about wear and tear maintenance, but that's through a mangrove forest that is heavily protected.
Well,
Scooters there.
it took 20 years when we refurbished it. I don't know what the useful life of the boardwalk is, but probably in another 20 years, we're going to have to do it again anyway. Not necessarily because of the blanking, but because of the under supports, the trusses and stuff, because we didn't do that this time. But I would like to pursue it the way Tony has suggested. I think there is overwhelming support. There are people that are negative, but there's overwhelming support of the community to keep it open, not necessarily the golf carts, but to keep it open and do the best we can, because we have people that not only can't walk, we got some people that can't see, and access to the boardwalk is not easy. They got to bring their carts to it to get there. Then we'd have to build cart parking. I mean, there's a lot of parts to this thing.
So are you and Bill live over there? Are you guys both entertaining this thought of going this route that Tony described?
Bill is more adamant that we just ignore it. I'm more amenable to, Bill wants to make whoever is objecting to it, bring it to a head legally.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah.
That's substantially correct. This guy is just a troublemaker. We've been doing this. I drove a golf cart in there in 2002, and ever since, not allowed a bit of problem. And now we just spent $1 million on a refurbishing of it, and you're going to limit it to walkers? Give me a break.
Longer his.
So Bill, would you go along with the motion to have this meeting immediately set up with South Florida Water Management District to try to achieve what Bob said earlier? That is get a waiver or a permit on this?
If you really think that's necessary, what I'd rather have is just keep doing what we've been doing for 20 years and let the troublemaker decide what he's going to do about it.
He wants to take us to court. I mean,
He wants to take us to court. I think.
But with all due respect, all this discussion, that person has a remedy. South Florida responds to these kind of things. I had a client in Hideaway Beach about 2 years.
South Florida Water Management's got their hands full with all kinds of things. They're not going to, they'll be a year before they get around to this.
Well, my experience, I'll just give an experience that I had about two and a half years ago, Hideaway Beach on Marco Island. The staff of South Florida was on a flyover of Marco for something totally unrelated to Hideaway Beach. They looked down, they saw a boardwalk through the mangroves. And then within about a week, my client got a nasty gram from South Florida saying, you need to take the boardwalk out that's in that conservation area that you built. And my client said, we didn't build it. Come to find out, a homeowner hired somebody and built it. And South Florida said, we don't care. You're the permittee. And so my client ended up going after the homeowner, getting the money, but my client did the remediation, the mitigation, and removal before it went into enforcement. They worked it as a compliance matter. And that's my recommendation.
As a happy medium, what Bob proposed to do, is that acceptable?
Yes, and that's exactly what the announcement says. That we are going to immediately put in the bollards, limit access, but go and get the staff to get away.
In as much as the boardwalk and the conservation area are owned and managed by the CDD. The bollards are currently with a contractor, Castle Management. And I've talked to Laura, we're going to put GSCDD locks on.
We'll
So
put
this will be
the locks we
controlled.
have all around, so
It will
we'll
be
have the
controlled
keys.
by,
So you make the motion to proceed in that manner?
as we just said.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Thank you.
What is the motion, Mr. Chairman?
The motion is that we comply with the permit at the present time while simultaneously, we put the bollards in, Bill, and simultaneously, we're going to go after South Florida for a permit modification. And we're going to get as much out of South Florida on a permit modification as we can. Hopefully, they'll recognize golf carts have been there for 20 years without incident, and they'll allow it. But if they don't, we're not going to be knowingly in violation.
I think you're making a big mistake.
We're following the rules that it seems to me that we're on safe ground with,
Exactly.
and that we can fight for the fact that 20 years, why are we?
Of history, right.
Nothing has happened.
Okay, I will
right.
call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, so we on,
We've finished up.
That was
We're-
the last thing.
We're ready for consent agenda.
Yes.
great job. Anything to pull consent agenda 5A through D?
Are you stringing this
Nothing.
out? We're-
No?
None.
Okay, motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I-
Okay, let me give you an update on the conversation I had with Chelsea. She was very excited, and wasn't expected to be called so quickly. So I gave her, I presented a verbal offer of 125 for the district manager position. She said that, again, she was very excited. The one thing she wants to do before she officially accepts is she wants to look at the benefits. So.
Say again, she wants to what?
She wants to just review our benefits, which is understandable. They have really good benefits within the city. So she just wants to review those. So Laura, maybe we can work on, we'll need to present a formal offer with all of our benefit packages or all of our benefits and everything. So that'll be fine. The other stipulation is probably going to take her 30, 45 days to come on board. Now, 30 days is what she kind of said during her interview portion. She does have, I think, a vacation planned in the beginning of April. So it'll probably put us 45 days out before she can officially start be in the building. Now, so that she, could potentially, maybe do some other type of transition and stuff, but, so she's excited about the opportunity.
Did she say anything or any concern that, or possibility that I found out with one of our other deals, that they come back and?
No, she didn't mention it. No,
Didn't mention it.
but I think it should be something that we should be aware of. So I think what we do is,
We gotta put her on a time limit.
yeah. So we need to work on getting the,
Yeah, let's get the benefit package.
Yeah.
Well, I can put that together. Yeah, that's, I
And
have.
get a
that.
response back quickly.
Yes.
and then we would need a response. We need to pin down probably the start date. And just anticipate potentially a counter coming back. So, which we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Cal, so what we need to do is, so with Michael, I think we need to figure out our stance with him. I think we keep him very much on the hook in today's environment.
Well,
it's good to have-
I'd like to even go a step further, since he has a strong desire to come to Florida. Why don't we just take a flyer and offer him the public work position? I know that wouldn't give Chelsea the opportunity, but I think it would certainly strengthen the organization. And if he truly wants to come,
I'd argue with you up one side, down the other, except for the fact that I don't think we're gonna find a needle in the haystack that qualifies any better than what we got for him.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone 120, 180 days and we've seen applications coming through here like crazy. And we haven't seen hardly even the word stormwater.
yeah. So we
management
got a
and
guy who has the experience and has a strong desire to come back to Florida. Let's take
So,
the leap.
I will tell you what,
Normally say no,
And-
but I
and-
think so in this case. We don't want to lose it.
Yeah,
We don't
and-
want to lose.
And we're concerned that if Fort Myers Beach is gonna be losing her, and if we will be delaying him in case she would have brought somebody from her staff, they'll be losing two. So the chances that they're gonna counter that second person are gonna be way higher because they will be losing two people. That's how I look at it. So I'm
Well,
in
but they don't
agreement-
have ponds. I don't know.
Yeah,
how that
and I'm
person
in
could come
agreement that we should
Fort Myers
look
Beach when they
into
don't have
Michael
ponds.
for this.
Yeah, that's why I go along with what you're saying.
So I'll make a motion that we offer it simultaneously or that the chairman feel out whether he will accept an offer as our.
Would we be able to play our cards better waiting until, let's say, Monday?
Yeah, let me,
And have the.
let's work on that a little bit. Yeah.
But I'd
So
like to give him the
at
authority
least
to
give
move.
me, at least give me the approval to have that conversation. And I need to look at the range because we're gonna have to, I mean, at where he's at, we're gonna have to pay a premium for this role. Now, I will tell you, as being in this business right now, you hire the best available talent that's available, you know, because
After what
it's
we've
hard.
gone through.
Yeah, I would much rather go heavy and
Well,
have as much
When I
expertise.
lived in Michigan, I'd have taken a pay cut to come to Florida.
I did.
I didn't.
So
I
I guess
did.
the goal would be to offer him the position upon Chelsea accepting that position. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that your motion, Bob?
Yeah.
I'll second your motion.
Offering a second, any further discussion? All in
Any,
favor?
any relocation, it's gonna be room for that, or
No,
we'll just
Leave
wait?
it up to Doug.
I don't-
He
Yeah, well,
Okay.
let
he
me-
even
I'll-
said here he'd be flexible, so.
So I think we even got to circle back on, I got to look at the range for that.
You've got to look at if you want the opportunity to move 2,800 miles, that deal might just have to be a part of it.
I think
Yeah.
for me, the first conversation is, hey, we're really impressed with your background. We would like to leverage you in this type of capacity. We can talk about what that looks like, and see what his interest level is. Because you know what, I would be interested in that, you know, whatever. Then we go,
And then you
then
always
then
come
I'll
back
come
and
back.
say,
and
Nothing
say,
to lose.
Yeah.
We
He
have
did,
to
he
do
did
it.
tell me he was interested.
Okay.
Oh, did?
Okay,
Oh,
great.
Oh, yeah.
And he listened to the whole conversation too. So
Oh,
he
super.
was online the whole time.
Oh, he was on.
Yeah.
I said, call the vote.
So,
So I will call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Perfect. Okay.
as far as our contract, we're done the end of the month then.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think you need us anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
we appreciate everything.
Okay.
And we know where
this interview deal went really, really smooth.
Yeah.
Having those conference calls
The
to
pre-
be able to listen in on,
Yes.
that saved a lot of time.
I
And
mean-
you hit the right questions, so
Yeah.
to me, it was very easy, much easier to come in here and make this today. The only thing that could have complicated it today would have been Bodnar, would have been still around.
So nice job. Thank you.
Thanks, Cal.
Comments, Bob?
Supervisor comments. Okay, I passed around to you a handbook, just for information. And I gave one to Elle also and to Laura. And this just outlines formally what the Ponds Work Group does at Pelican. Remember, this is a volunteer organization, but it lists all their duties, their core functions. It's really quite handy. So just,
Oh, so this isn't the standard that
it's their, what they call their operation, how they run their work group.
okay. Got it.
So how
Thank
they run their work.
Great.
So look at it and good information.
Bill, anything from you, sir?
no, I think I've said enough probably.
I'm glad you told us how you feel, Bill.
Mr. Tinkle?
Yeah, the only thing I bring up is staffs. Well, first of all, Cal, thanks for everything the last couple of months. Scott, he's still in guard yet, but anyway, thank you so much for getting us through that.
We're still under contract till the end of the month. so,
Gotcha.
If there's something that we can help with, just give us a call.
The other one is that we're running into an interesting and scary situation over at Callaway Greens. Kenny and his people, we've got water coming into the sewer. We showed some of the videos. I don't know if you've seen them to what extent, but we're down 7.5, 8 feet deep that we're going to be tearing up one hell of a lot of the street and some yards. It's a mess. Every time we turn a corner, started with the Comcast project and it's just continuing on, that I don't think any of this is due to Comcast, but Kenny is of the opinion it may have been a cable that severed a line. We don't know. When we get into it and dig it up, we do know one thing. There's 2 more right behind it that we've got to do. And God only knows how many more of these things are going to be surfacing, but just throughout the entire service district, just another sign of the age and what we're going to be running into on some of these older neighborhoods. Because these are not easy fixes. I mean, you're down into water and groundwater at only about 4 feet and all the way down to 7 or 8 feet. So you put pumps in there, a pump that you know what freezes over trying to work in this. So a lot of this work may be done underwater using some of these new methods of putting tubes in the pipe and
Yeah.
blowing them up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm surprised we haven't seen more, to be quite honest.
I hope I don't see any more. It's not good because it's expensive, immensely expensive. So that's all.
Mr. Chairman, on that point before Flavia, if I may, Laura, how are we coming, or the engineers coming, or was tasked with that 5-year report that's due to this Lee County on June 30th?
Oh, that's right. We got that
I
coming.
just thought about that because that's,
Yes, that's got a deadline on it.
I will check on that tomorrow.
yeah, because that's, and that part of it is,
I have several status updates, but I
That's
don't remember what
Tetra
that one's
Tech's
about.
extra duties we did about a month and a half ago.
yeah, because that's what the legislature adopted. You have to have the 5
Yeah.
years, and how are you going to address it? What are you going to do? So,
Good point.
I'm sorry, just, sorry about that.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Oh,
Okay, all right.
And it's information that we
Nothing for
need.
me.
oh, absolutely.
So I will call the meeting adjourned at 5:05. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Wow, good job.